ICT Market Dialogue event. This event is organized in Nordic cooperation with Motiva from Finland, the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management, Myndigheten from Sweden, and Danish Environmental Ministry. This event is enabled with the support from Nordic Council of Ministers. I'm Anna Sahiluoma from Motiva, and I'm hosting the event. We have over 160 registered participants, and to understand who we have online, please click on the poll on the upper right corner of the streaming platform and tell us who or what organization you're from. It seems like at this moment we have a lot of procuring organizations online, but I'm sure we have more suppliers joining on later time of this event. We have also several suppliers speaking here today. Welcome, everyone. Let's take a look at today's program. We will start with an overview of the environmental effects of procuring, using, and throwing away ICT. After that, we'll have a panel discussion, and then we'll go for a short break. After the break, we'll see good procurement cases, great examples that we can all learn from. Then we'll hear from public buyers representing their needs and procurement goals. After lunch, we'll change perspective and go to suppliers and hear what kind of solutions they have for the challenges of sustainable ICT. The general part ends at 1:30, and then we'll go to one-on-one meetings. As this is a market dialogue event, you'll have an opportunity to book a one-on-one meeting with the supplier speaking here today. There'll be a link in the chat that you can book your 15-minute meeting time. Please use that opportunity. Before our first speaker, the project manager Suvi Salmela here from Motiva will present the targets and goals for this event today. Go ahead, Suvi.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome on my behalf as well. Well, as we all know, market dialogue is a crucial part of successful procurements. When we know what kind of solutions and products there exists in the market, we can set the criteria right, and it's actually we're getting better products and better services. From supplier's perspective, it's important to understand what kind of goals or preferences big buyers actually have. And because then you get ideas how to develop your product in the future to match with their needs. Well, I hope you all will get new fresh ideas how to make more sustainable circular ICT procurements so that you don't just buy something and then throw it away after 2 years of use. The idea is to learn from each other, so I encourage you to be interactive, so ask, comment, share your experiences in the chat, what you can use there. And I also hope that you will use the opportunity to book these one-on-one meetings with suppliers and buyers, and that way get to know each other better. So I hope you find this Nordic cooperation valuable, because together we make up a huge market. We can send a clear signal what kind of change we want. We are also planning to continue this work after this event. A joint workshop is planned in the future, and also there is going to be a launch of a tender process. Every one of you who has registered to the event, you will get more information of these opportunities later. Few words in Finnish. Pidemmittä puheitta, which means something like I don't want to bother you more. Let's get back to business. I wish you all a pleasant and inspiring day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Suvi. And now we'll go to our first speaker, who is Alexandra Wu from Swedish Environmental Institute. She will share with us the big picture, why we should care about how long we use our ICT devices. Alexandra will also tell us about what circular economy is when we talk about ICT. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the biggest sustainability issues in electronics, especially in the context of circular economy. So as mentioned, I'm speaking to you from IVL Swedish Environmental Research Institute. For those of you who might not know, we are an independent research institute where we do applied and academic research, as well as consultancy across a broad range of sustainability topics where circular economy really underpins all of our work. So I thought today I could kind of run through three main questions. The first is, why should we care about electronics issues in the first place? What is the circular economy and how does it relate to electronics and IT? And lastly, more specifically, what can be done? So for the first question of why should we care in the first place, annually on average on the global level, we produce about 53 million tons of e-waste per year. And this includes appliances and lighting equipment and also IT electronics. And by weight, that is equal to about 8 pyramids of Giza. So it is a lot of waste. And why is that happening? We're seeing higher levels of disposable income, which means that people are getting richer and people have more money to spend so that they can buy more. More people are also moving to urban areas and cities where electronic products are more used, obviously. And also industrialization has allowed for a more efficient production of products, which means that on a systemic level, we can produce more and we can sell more. On the consumer side, we're also seeing higher consumption rates of electronics. We're buying more, we're using more, but the products also have shorter life cycles, either because the products themselves are made to not last very long, or because there are always new models coming up so that people change or upgrade and move on to the next or newer thing. And at the same time, there are fewer repair options that are available, so that it's not very possible to make the products last longer and use them for longer. And of all of the million tons of e-waste that is produced, only a very small fraction, about 17% of that, is actually documented to be collected and properly recycled. And when it is recycled, only a very small fraction of all of the materials can actually be reclaimed. And this typically are iron, aluminum, and copper. And this doesn't even touch on a lot of the minute and small and valuable materials and metals that are in IT electronics. The rest of the fractions, about 80%, are not documented. And it's estimated that that fraction is exported to exported to third countries as secondhand products or as e-waste, and they could end up in countries where the treatment of the e-waste is not environmentally sound and can end up being damaging or polluting to the environment. The rest of it is also, or there's a fraction of it that is estimated to be discarded in waste bins with mixed waste in high-income countries. But if we look at the life cycle, the full life cycle of a IT electronic product like a smartphone, most of the waste types that is produced in a smartphone in the production, it is embedded in the production stage alone. So if we look at the waste footprint of a smartphone, for example, most of the waste that is produced is associated with the production stage in the mining of the raw materials that go into producing the phone. So that means that most of the environmental impact of IT is actually embedded in the production phase. And that makes circular economy even more important because most of our control is in the use phase. So what is exactly the circular economy and how does it relate to electronics? For a very long time, and this is still the main system that we live in today, we live in a linear economic system, which means that we take raw materials, we produce products with them, we use it, and then we throw it out. It is a take, make, waste sort of system. If we move towards a circular economy, what this would mean is that we would try to minimize the amount of raw materials that we take from the environment to make products, and we try to minimize the amount of waste that is released and thrown out into the environment. And in a theoretically fully circular economy, this would mean that all loops are closed by recycling or reusing materials and resources and energy, so that we take nothing from the environment and we throw out nothing to the environment. And circular economy can almost be seen as a scale, where on the more linear side, we see strategies on recycling or material recovery, like in IKEA and Coca-Cola, that have produced products with, for example, recycled plastics in the case of IKEA, or also Coca-Cola, but also, for example, recycled aluminum in packaging that is used by Coca-Cola. There are also strategies moving more towards circularity in the extension of the lifespan of the product and its parts. And we see that with companies like Fairphone and Nudie Jeans that offer services and products for repairing their products so that they can last longer, or designing products to be modular so that they can be upgraded. And on the more circular end of the scale, we also see strategies that really rethink how we see the things that we need and use. So, for example, Airbnb has sort of rethunk the way we use spaces to make space use more efficient, and also with Uber to make car use and vehicle use, transport use more efficient. And so how does this all apply and relate to electronics? If we look at a typical life cycle, from design to extraction of raw materials to manufacturing, sales, marketing, product use, and then end of life, we see a number of possible circular economy strategies when it comes to electronics. On the design stage, we see strategies related to designing for circularity. So designing a product in a way that allows it, for example, to be upgradable or have a longer use life, etc., or to allow for remanufacturing. There's also strategies in circular supplies where the materials used to produce the product come from secondary or recycled materials. And this is related to also strategy number 3 in resource recovery, in terms of recycling the product itself, or taking materials or what would be considered waste from other production processes and use that as a resource in the production and the design and the production of products. Then we have product life extension strategies that encompass remanufacturing, reselling, repair, and upgrade. There's also strategies in sharing the product itself or product as a service, like in leasing models. Although for the purpose of today, perhaps our kind of main target window of control is in strategies 4, 5, and 6 in product life extension, sharing, and product as a service. So going into a little bit more specifically what can be done. Circular economy is a systemic issue and it requires systemic solutions and the involvement of all actors. Policymakers can create the systems, rules, and frameworks to enable circular economy strategies and solutions to take place. Producers can play a role in creating a market push and providing offers and services in circular economy. Consumers then can create a market pull in building demand for circular services and products. And retailers also have a role in providing a platform to bring producers and consumers together, in playing a role in marketing and communication to normalize circular economy. And of course, today's focus is on procurement, which has great potential given that procurement can be a huge consumer group in itself. But one of the biggest challenges, of course, with procurement is the limited time and resources. A typical procurement officer in some of the work that we've done on procurement that we see. They tend to work alone across multiple areas. So in a municipality in Sweden, for example, one procurement officer might be responsible for hospitals and buildings and food and IT. So you have to be sort of an expert across many different areas. Value for money is also a typical starting point, but it can be very difficult to change the norms and procedures and budgets and things like that, even though investing in circularity can offer long-term savings, there tends to be a higher upfront cost. So changing these norms and expenditures and things like that can be quite difficult, especially when you're working under limited time and resources. But that's not to say that there aren't any opportunities in IT, of course, when it comes to circular procurement. And we see that in the procurement of service, extending product service life, toxic-free requirements like addressing hazardous materials in the cabling, for example, of IT products. There's also opportunities in demanding for resource-efficient use, like in energy efficiency, and also material circulation, like products that are made with recycled material content or remanufactured IT products. And at least in the case of Sweden, the Swedish Public Procurement Agency has also produced guidance with specific criteria that procurement officers can already use when it comes to technical specifications, additional optional criteria so that suppliers can score even more points from a sustainability perspective, criteria for the contract duration and the lifetime of the contract, and also demands on things like repairability in the maintenance stage, warranty, and reusability. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm always very motivated and passionate to talk about this topic, so feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Alexandra. Now we have next the panel discussion on how public procurement can boost the shift towards circular and sustainable ICT. We have panelists Peter Gefle, who is Public Procurement Advisor from Viken County, Norway, Sari Mattera, Sustainability Manager from Atea Oy, Finland, Marieke Wedenstein, Senior Advisor on Sustainable Public Procurement from Rijkswaterstaat from the Netherlands. And we are still missing one panelist, but hopefully Enrico de Girgis from European Commission can also join us. Alexandra Wu just presented a huge challenge related to the growing amount of electronic waste, and on the other hand, the use of exhaustible raw materials and blood minerals in electronics. The present situation is clearly unsustainable as we update our ICT devices every 2 years or so. Now we will have a panel discussion on the possible solutions to these challenges. And let us start with the panelists shortly presenting yourself and explaining what your organization does related to these topics. And please also answer the following question. From your organization's point of view, what would you see as a solution to this challenge? Let's start with Peter. Go ahead, Peter.
Wonderful. Thank you. I work for the county, as you mentioned, and I'm thinking of finding some to tell where this is and what kind of power we have. We do not have power lightly. I'm sharing my screen right now, like that. So the question is, what can we do? And my role is to be between our 11,000 employees and the market. So we that do exist, or maybe don't exist, but it's really important that the solutions that we find, that they are accepted, that the employees actually use them. So we in the Nordic country, it's not like that we can say you have to. So we have to find solutions that are accepted. So that's kind of the middle ground. I also put some numbers. In Norway, we have 50,000 million euros. It's a huge number And of that, I will be talking about 20 million of those later today. So that would be smartphones. So by using our powers on this, in this in-between role, what can the market do and what can the employees do? So the levers, I think Alexandra very well. So I just I will be talking more about durability and warranty and updates and parts and repair during the day today later. But Alexandra did a very good job on telling us all that there is a lot of materials, there's transport, there's time of use, there's length of life, there's so many things. So I think I'd stop there. Thank you.
Sari-Mattila, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone. So my name is Sari and I work as a sustainability manager in Atea, Finland. And those who are not too familiar with what Atea does, we are an IT supplier, an IT services company operating in the Nordic and Baltic region. And we're about 7,500 employees. So I agree with Peter. Alexandra has summarized very well about the complex challenges that we are facing in the ICT industry. And there really isn't a single solution. We all hope that there would be, but what we see here as the opportunity is to really increase sustainability holistically as a whole. So, for example, as Atea doesn't have any own manufacturer, but we are kind of like placed between the buyers and the manufacturers or producers. We are using our unique position in the market to connect these two. And what we have initiated is what we call an Atea sustainability focus, which is exactly a dialogue between the buyers in the Nordic IT and also the IT industry to increase the global IT industry sustainability. Of course, we also have Take Back program and we pursue for 100% asset recovery. I think that's as a short.
Then next, Marieke, go ahead.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you very much for the invitation to join this exciting event today, and congratulations on the program. So my name is Marieke Weerdestein. I work for Rijkswaterstaat. We are a central government organization in the Netherlands. And I work in the team that focuses on sustainable public procurement in the Netherlands and internationally, with a specific attention to circular procurement. In the Netherlands, we have an ambitious goal for 2050. We're striving towards a fully circular economy, an economy without waste that primarily uses renewable resources and reuses products and materials. And we believe that in order to achieve that transition that is needed to come to that ambitious goal, procurement has an important role to play. And that's where our team works on a wide range of projects and programs in different sectors. One of the programs that we are part of and host a secretariat for is the Circular and Fair ICT Pact. The pact is a procurement-driven partnership, and currently we have 8 participant countries, and we're in conversation with more countries and organizations to join. And it's our objective to accelerate the production and use of circular and fair ICT products through the power of procurement. Well, so what does that mean in practice? We aim to support procurers in taking steps, like Alexandra also mentioned, and Peter, to see, and also we want to see if it's feasible to work towards a more harmonized demand for circular and fair ICT. If we could formulate jointly a roadmap of where we want to go and have the dialogue with the sector, we may be able to to speed up the transition towards circular and fair ICT. And we believe that particularly a sector like ICT calls for such an international approach because the market players are so huge that if you engage as a single procurer or a single buyer of ICT, and you want to engage with these market players, it's sometimes difficult to get a spot at the table. And we hope that we, as a collective, will be able to have a more effective dialogue, towards the results we want to achieve. We work at 3 levels. Coordinating organizations can join the partnership. They commit to then setting up buyer groups in their own region. So if a country joins the Circular and Fair ICT Pacts, you set up your own buyer group where you support procurers in knowledge exchange and helping each other with the challenges they encounter. And procurers can also sign the pact directly. If you do so, you commit to sustainable procurement, and where possible, also to use the tools and guidance that are currently being developed under the pact. You will be able to find peers to help move the needle, really, where you haven't been able to do so independently. And at the level of CFIT altogether, the experience from all these different countries and participants is brought together to work on guidance and criteria and information and knowledge exchange, hoping that no one has to reinvent the wheel. Something that I would like to add to the outline of Alexandra when she was looking at procurement and the role procurement can play towards sustainable ICT is that we really want to take procurement a bit broader, and also incorporate operational management, because we believe that if we really want to work towards circular and sustainable ICT, we also need to look at what we buy. We need to try and buy less, buy the better things, so that's where the procurement itself comes in, but also make sure that we can use our products longer and better, and make sure that they're reused after the lifetime. So we take procurement in that whole wide definition. And that's the way we aim to contribute to the solutions for the challenges that Alexandra presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Marieke. Then last but certainly not least, we have Enrico de Giorgis, the Policy Officer from European Commission, DG Environment. Go ahead, Enrico.
Good morning, everyone. Also from my side, thanks for inviting me today to participate in this panel discussion. I work at the European Commission, DG Environment, in the unit in charge of circular economy, sustainable production and consumption. In particular, I'm in charge of the activities related to green public procurement. So, of course, the Commission sees a great potential, a huge potential in greening the purchases of public bodies, and has been supporting the introduction of environmental requirement in public procurement since several years already, through different tools that are basically all available online. So through guidance on how to interpret the public procurement rules, the legislation, to ensure that environmental requirements can be included in it. And one of the tools that the Commission has developed are common EU GPP criteria at EU level. So with the idea of having green criteria that could be used throughout Europe, and several of these product groups covered by the different set of EU GPP criteria relates to the ICT area, which is of course one of the most interesting for a majority of contracting authorities. So for instance, we have EU GPP criteria for computers, for monitors, for smartphones and tablets. We have these GPP criteria for data centers, for server rooms, for cloud services, and as well for imaging equipment, consumables, and print services. So these are a bit the tools that, some of the tools that are available. And of course, the Commission is also working on a broader scale on the sustainability also of the ICT sector. So there's really, I would say, plenty of initiatives ongoing. And with the Circular Economy Action Plan, the new Circular Economy Action Plan that was published in March 2020 as part of the implementation of the European Green Deal strategy, the Commission envisages to continue to promote through guidance, so to promote voluntary green public procurement, but also to strengthen the part related to mandatory requirements for public procurement, for green public procurement through sectoral legislation. So this is something that is progressively going on when revising on or adopting new legislation. So I think I'll stop there and happy to continue our discussion.
Thank you, Enrico. As a start off, what do you see is the role of public buyers in the shift towards more circular and sustainable ICT? Let's start the round with Sari from Atea. Go ahead.
Thank you. So first of all, of course, the role is really important when it comes to the buyers. And as Alexandra mentioned in her part, we need to change from the linear model. So as I see it, or as we see it, the linear business model is already business risk. So I guess the role is a little bit like twofold when it comes to the buyers. So first of all, of course, we need to move from the sustainability talk and put the sustainability in the tenders and in the requirements and into action. And then, of course, secondly, the ways we consume. It's not just what Marika mentioned, that what we buy, but it's also how we buy and how we consume. It's the regular ways of consumption are not sustainable. So we need to really think if it's more than just we need a new and a fancy equipment, or if it's really the function that we need. So of course, moving from buy and use and throw away towards buy as a service, for example. And then, of course, the buyers, they need to think of an IT strategy when they are buying. So is it more than well, let's put it this way. It doesn't really matter how sustainable the products are if we are still using them in an unsustainable manner, and if we are not repairing them, or if we are not recycling them.
Thank you, Sari. Peter, go ahead.
Yes, Atea and we are cooperating. Sari is not in that group. I'm cooperating with the Norwegian part of Atea. But I just mentioned something for you, Sari. You said tender and requirement and action, and you're perfect on that. I will add something. And that is, before the tender and before we get to the requirements, we have a market conference with the market, with the suppliers, and then we invite Atea and many others in to talk about what can we do. And you can play a part there. You and all the other suppliers. You can say that we can have better battery, we can have repair, we can do this. So you can offer solutions to us as well. Thank you for your mentioning it, Sari.
Thank you, Peter. Marieke, would you like to comment on the role of public buyers?
Yeah, I think a lot has already been mentioned, and I'm not going to repeat what the other panelists already shared. But I think another aspect that buyers can think about is how to pilot and to test new innovative approaches as part of their procurement strategy prior to rolling it out broadly. Sometimes you hear all these myths about things that are not yet possible, or they won't work in your organization. And perhaps by trying things on a smaller scale first, it might appear to be possible in the long run. And furthermore, fully agree with what was already mentioned.
you, Marieke. How about Enrico? From the regulator point of view, how do you see the role of public buyers?
Yeah, always difficult to add something because all what has been said, I think it's essential, and we focus on the main aspects. What I think it's good to still recall is that public buyers are just a part of the organization. Of course, they are the one in the end taking care of writing technical specification, carrying out, publishing the tenders, but it's difficult to, I mean, they are, of course, traditionally expert of public procurement rules, which are already complex enough. We are now asking them to become expert also on the environmental side of what they are purchasing, possibly the social responsibility requirements related to what they are purchasing. So they need, of course, to be supported, and it really has to be something that has to be tackled at the organization level. So it is essential to ensure the cooperation between different sectors of the organizations, the one with knowledge and public procurement, the ones maybe more coming from an environmental background, and there is a need to increase the professionalization of public buyers. So the European Commission also on this has worked to develop a competency framework to define competencies of public buyers, and these are all small pieces of the puzzle, the jigsaw, that will help us get to more sustainable public procurement.
Thank you, Enrico. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to share a story that I think will fit well into this panel. I mentioned that I'm between Atea and our employees. 11,000 of them, and a lot of phones are going to our employees. But Atea is also in between. They're between Apple and Samsung, for instance, and me as a buyer, and then me to the user. So the story is that I was sitting at Atea's headquarters in Oslo, and they invited Samsung and they invited Apple. And I asked Apple, what is your warranty? And their warranty was 1 year. And the warranty of Atea was 2 years. My requirement was 3 years, which means that Atea had to do something on top of what Apple. So Apple is not here today, Samsung is not here today, but they're part of the picture. So my requirements put Atea in a bad spot or in a difficult position. They had to add on a warranty that the producer didn't do. So well done, Atea, that they did do it. But there's a flow of how many have to be into this. So yes, I do talk a lot about warranty because that has to do with the length of the life, the products and the durability of the products that we can use. So I just thought that I should mention that story. What Apple answered is not part of the story.
Thank you, Peter. That brings us to the next question. What kind of challenges have you faced related to the lifetime extension of ICT? Peter gave us one example, but the other panelists could also tell us on the different sides. Also, what we as buyers, suppliers, legislators should or could do in the future to overcome these challenges. Maybe this time Marieke could start.
Sure. Well, one of the challenges that came back in our Dutch buyer group is that it's really key to involve all relevant stakeholders in your own organization and around your organization if you look at lifetime extension. So we had the story of the replacement of screens, of monitors, and they were all collected in the company or in the organization, and they were ready to be transported to the organization who was supposed to give them a second life, but no one had informed the transportation company that they were actually handling goods and not waste. So you can imagine that the people in that company, they just stack the monitors on top of each other, which created a lot of extra damage, making the second life of the monitors a lot more difficult. So if you don't involve each and every stakeholder you need in your organization to make it really happen and make sure that people know what is going to happen, it's really difficult to achieve your results. And I think also if the users in your organization know, well, that after they hand in their laptop or their phone, it's going to be given a second life or it's going to be refurbished, they may also use them in a better way so that they're a better quality when they're handed in. So that's just one challenge. I can think of a lot. And I guess another one is that there are a lot of myths going on when it comes to lifetime extension. And we need to see how we can do some myth busting. For example, data wiping nowadays is something that can be certified. It can be done really, really well. And there's really no reason not to reuse computers or laptops because of data security issues. And still there are computers being destroyed because of the fear that some sensitive data might leak out. So it's really important to inform the people taking decisions on what the processes and procedures are to ensure that safety and security. And another one is that, for instance, the ICT teams of organizations are really hesitant to buy refurbished or remanufactured equipment. They feel they're handing out second-hand products, whereas what I hear is that it's really often as new. So it might be something that could be pilot tested in an organization to see how users respond to it when they know that they are actually using or giving a product a second life already in your own organization.
Thank you, Marieke. How about Enrico? What do you see as the biggest challenges and solutions to overcome?
Yeah, I think also I have some echo. I don't know. Okay, now it seems better. Okay. Also, in the development of the GPP criteria that I was mentioning, we faced some of the challenges that already Marieke mentioned. And so, for instance, if we think of refurbished and remanufactured products, of course, it is needed also to adapt the environmental requirements that you can ask, because of course, when you're thinking, for instance, of hazardous substances, maybe you have to adapt and be a bit less ambitious, because in the case of a refurbished or remanufactured product, it's so good, the fact that you can prolong the life of the product, that you may want to, I mean, you may be able to adapt and be a bit less ambitious, maybe on another side. But of course, you need to be conscious of what you're asking and how to find the best compromise between the environmental level of ambition that you want to reach, depending on what you're asking for. And one additional point is also that it's always there is always this difficulties of using life cycle costing. Everyone is talking about life cycle costing. Let's calculate the life cycle cost of what we are buying. But then in practice, it's not always so easy to do. So that's also why the Commission tried to help with some tools in this area. And talking about life cycle costing, now I don't want to open too many boxes, but there is always the issue of including also costs related to externalities. And so costs that are not directly bared by the contracting authority itself, and how to take it into account. So it's really needed also in this area to have more experience, to share experiences, and to try to move on, to be able to have a more global approach.
Thank you, Enrico. Would Sari like to add something from your side?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, we need to keep in mind that some of the IT equipments already last a lot longer than what we are actually using them. So the lifespan is not always the challenge here. I think there's a little bit of a chicken egg paradox here. So on the one hand, for example, the brands are or the producers are being pushed towards designing their products for circularity. And on the other hand, then the buyers are then told to okay, you need to buy more reused or think the way you are consuming. But I think what Marika mentioned about the security issues related to still not every device is being recycled or reused, and what Peter was mentioning also about what Atea is in a position between the two. So I think when it comes to us as a supplier, our biggest role here is to really educate and bring transparency to what the actual possibilities are and where the buyers should also focus on, and yeah, bring a better portfolio also of services and products that support the IT.
Thank you, Sari. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on that. Both Sari and Marieke is talking about second and the lifespan. And last point from Sari, maybe the product can live for 6 years, but I only use it for 3. There are 2 aspects on that. Maybe it's okay that I use it for 3 years if someone else is using it for the last 3. Come to my point. I have shared my screen. Maybe you can just show my point right now is updates. Updates could be on a PC, could be on a cell phone. And the update, this message goes to the manufacturers and the ones making the operating system. So if Microsoft is listening, if Apple is listening, that would be lovely. It's a decision for how long is it going to be updated, for how security updates. It's maybe 4 years, it's maybe 5 years now. So to Sari's point, so if the product lasts for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, our security department, they're uneasy with having a product without the updates. So the product is lasting, but the will to have updates and security is not there. So that's also of the problems here. Thank you.
That was an excellent point, Peter. Several of you have also highlighted the importance of users in this circularity. And I will now take a question from the audience to the panelists. Do you have any examples of how to motivate employees to take good care of their leased laptops? Any incentives, any punishments that you know of? Could this be something to promote the better use of electronic devices to get them to be in better condition to be used later? Let's start with maybe Sari this time.
Sure. So, for example, here we have a perfect case of lead by example. So what we are kind of trying to preach to our customers and stakeholders, we're also doing ourselves. So we try to keep the use phase of a laptop short enough so that we can return it back to the loop, of course, and then give it to someone else as a reused. And what we do to motivate, of course, the purchasing is really, really simple and easy, made for the employees in Atea. And of course, the take back as well. So what we are offering to our customers, our Go IT loop, we are also using internally. So it's made easy, I guess. And we are also educating like the impact of ICT and the footprint and everything to our employees. So I guess the lead by example here is the key.
Thank you, Sari. Would Peter like to comment on this next?
Yes, my role today is smartphones, talking about smartphones. On PC, it could work the same manner. What we have done is that when the employees have a phone, of course, I will not say that our employees normally lose their phones. I mean, the numbers must be microscopic. I hope that our employees, they don't lose their phones after 2 years when there is a new phone on the market. But what we've done is to rig the system so that if you lose it, you get back an old one, a used one. So if I have an iPhone 12 and I've had it for a year and then I lose it, and then I hope to get an iPhone 13, the new one, well, you don't. So Atea will find a used one and they will give back the iPhone 12. So the way that we communicate this is that the PC, it would work for PCs as well as for smartphones. Your smartphone, the one that you have, is the one that you're going to keep for the length of your use. Repair, but this was just to mention our little trick that if you lose your phone, you get back an equal type of phone.
Thank you, Peter. Enrico, you said that educating or enhancing the knowledge level of procurers could work, but how could this could be used for people using the devices? Could educating or changing the mentality of us as users work from regulator point of view?
For sure, the involvement and the commitment of users is essential. I'm talking about this specific area, ICT, we are discussing today, but even more if I think, I'm not specifically working on ICT only, so there are many other areas like buildings, how a building is used, where it is absolutely essential. I'm working more on the policy level, so I don't really have direct examples of purchases or ways of encouraging employees to use sustainably their devices. We have a database with GPP examples that we collect. There are more than 200 examples, so there might be something there. They are all available online. What I can say from the direct experience I have in the European Commission, working at the European Commission, which is a very big organization. I think there are more than 30,000 employees, and there is a lot of movement. So of course, the PCs, the devices that we are using, once maybe an employee stop a certain position or move to another employer, they give it back, and of course they are reused for other employees. But I think it's something really normal, nothing particularly sustainable. It's just how the organization works.
Thank you, Enrico. Would Marike like to add something?
Only very briefly. Peter, I really like your example, and I think that's really a great way to avoid the broken and missing phones and laptops just before new versions are released. So this week it's Circular Economy Week in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of events happening related to circular economy. And what we're actually doing today in our own organization is having a session on ICT, which is targeted also at our own staff, where my colleagues from the corporate department, as well as the ICT department and the sustainability colleagues, are jointly presenting what we are doing to reduce our impacts. And the importance of the user is included in that as well. It's not as powerful, I think, as the measure that Peter was explaining. But I do think that particularly in organizations like ours, people may be sensitive to understand what the environmental impact is of being able to use a laptop for 1 year longer, and how that relates to other impacts in your organization, or making sure that you switch off your screen and don't let it on standby when you leave the office. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Marika. Oh, go ahead, sorry. You
I
first.
also want to say that Peter's example is a really, really excellent way of motivating the people. Additionally, I would like to say that it's also a very big cultural change. So what we need to do is also make repairing of the devices a more favorable option than always offering the new and fancy equipment.
Peter, you wanted to add something, go ahead.
Yes, the initial question was how to motivate the end user, but I will add that there is someone in between. Our work, our main business is high schools. We have 58 high schools. So the ones that I'm going to talk about are the principals. So there is one person in the whole school, and we try to, we meaning it's ICT department, so I'm luckily out of it, but they motivate the principals and say, in 4 years, we'll be in touch and give you hundreds of new computers. Sit tight, you don't have to do anything, you can just wait until the 4 years have gone, and we will come to you with the new computers. So what I'm saying is that if the principal never says to all the employees, it's just for 4 years, that's how it's done, that's how it works here, maybe it becomes the norm also for the employee.
Yes, that is true. We have another question from the audience. How do you see the response of software development in circular ICT? Softwares, also the operating system, tend to require more and more memory and processor capacity. Older computers can't run these softwares properly, or hardware updates are needed. How do you see this in all of the challenges of circularity? Marika, go ahead.
I think this is a really important challenge that we face at the moment, and definitely something that also should be incorporated in market dialogues. And it was mentioned before, so the making sure that the equipment can run for the agreed number of years with the relevant updates and software packages is really, really essential. I don't have a solution or an example that I can present at this moment, but I just wanted to mention and to underline that this is something that we really need to look into jointly with all stakeholders.
Thank you, Marieke. Sari, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I can add a little bit. So I think the most important is, of course, getting the right equipment for the people. But the thing is that the right equipment, you don't always have to download everything on your laptop. You can just have them in a cloud as well, and then access them from your device. So it becomes more of a function, and then everything you have, you don't necessarily need to download them on your device. Of course, what we have discussed here as well, when it comes to the softwares and security issues, the updates are important. So in that way, software is, of course, in a crucial role as well.
Yes, thank you. Would someone else like to say something to this question? Go ahead, Enrico.
Maybe I just can add on this. Of course, this is a big issue. And we have faced, in particular during the discussion, to develop the GPP criteria for imaging equipment, so printers, multifunctional devices, where a key environmental area is the possibilities of reusing, remanufacturing, or using remanufactured cartridges and toners. And one of the issues that was discussed was that when there are updates of the software on the machine, it frequently happens that it becomes, it doesn't recognize anymore when you use remanufactured cartridges. So we had a lot of discussion on this with the representative from the remanufacturing world, with the original equipment representative. So the companies also frequently selling the machines. We included basically a criteria, a requirement to ensure that when those updates happen, it is always possible to go back to the previous version for the user, so to ensure that this kind of problem doesn't take place.
Thank you, Enrico. Peter, you had your...
Yeah, it's a tough one. So it's important that you raise it, and our answers are somewhat good and not always comforting. The problem was that 5G is part of the toolkit. 5G meaning that mobile broadband is going fast. So we've heard of the pandemic, we've been at home, we've been around, and then maybe you do your work with the mobile broadband. And everyone, they want 5G, they want the fastest. So what we hope is that if we have the phones for 3 years, Atea would find a different market somewhere else where they could sell it for the last 3 years. So I'm hoping for a lifespan of 6, and that we have it for the first 3 years. So our choice was, should we have a phone for the first 3 years? And our excuse was that, oh, we need 5G, it's so important to us. And the excuse that goes back to our role, that me as a buyer, I'm between Atea and 11,000 employees. So if my suggested solution does not work, well, the phones are not going out to the employees. They're not accepting them. So if I give them 4G or old phones, I was afraid that they wouldn't take them. They would buy themselves, and then we had the double amount of phones. So it's a tricky one, and we chose to go for phones for this reason.
Thank you, Peter. Next question. One of the solutions for the future has been suggested to be modularity of devices. Could this be the solution to lifetime extension of ICT? Who would like to start first? Sari, go ahead.
Yeah, I can start. Well, as I mentioned before, of course, the quality of the product and the product durability are really important, and the lifespan as well of the IT equipment. But the thing is, like, it doesn't really matter how well it lasts because if we consume the way we do, and if we use it the way we do nowadays, then when it breaks, we just want a new one instead of like repairing it. So of course, when we have durable products and devices, when they break, they should be able to be repaired or refurbished. But I think it's more of a change in the attitude. And if we think with like other things that we consume, when it comes to clothes or cars or hotels, we are moving more to the sharing economy. And of course, using a lot of, it becomes a trend almost to use something that is being already reloved or reused, but it hasn't really come in the attitude of IT consumption yet.
That was an excellent point, Sari. We have a lot to do in order to get it to be a trend to use your computer longer or to buy a used computer or refurbished. Marieke, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, well, I think it's a big yes. In honesty, I think modularity, if that means that you would be able to upgrade your product, better screen, better camera, but still use the body of your phone, and in that way extend the lifetime, and also enjoy the new developments, so to say. I think that would be great, and I guess Fairphone is one of the first examples that is doing that on a commercial scale. At the same time, I also realize that it asks something of organizations if we speak of procurement, because the ICT departments also need to either organize themselves or organize with a partner, that products can indeed be repaired and upgraded. So again, it's a big yes, but it also asks something of the operational divisions in the organizations to really make sure that it happens.
How do you see this challenge for the procure or ICT department? Sorry, I asked Peter that how does he see this challenge for the one doing the procuring or the one in ICT department?
Modularity is your question, right?
Modularity be the solution, and how would this affect your behavior as a buyer?
That's also a tricky one. What we work with is meeting rooms, your PC, your smartphone, projectors. How does all this work together? And then suddenly Teams comes into it, and then you have to change something in the meeting rooms, and then HDMI comes, and then you have to change something on the computers. So I'm not saying that we're blind to it, and I'm not saying that we have a solution either, but we try to move so that we look ahead enough so that we don't do blunders, that we don't buy something that does not work within a very short period. But everything has to fit together, which means that it's a tricky one. So connectivity and compatibility is so important, or is more important for the employees, so that they can get work done. So sometimes you are correct, that is a problem, that we have to exchange lots of equipment so that the things speak together. So yes, my conclusion was we're trying to have a horizon. We try to look ahead, and we would be happy to get help from Atea and others to look ahead so that we see around the corners.
Thank you, Peter. Would Enrico like to add something to this?
Yeah. I think if we think of modularity as a mean to get more repairability and upgradability, it is essential, of course. Then, of course, as Marieke was saying, there will be the need. I mean, something will be repairable, then we will always need someone to repair it, actually. So, of course, also there is a need to adapt how the contracting authorities are organized to do that. And there is also a need for standardization to be sure that that we will be able more and more to have pieces maybe of different producers, different companies that are also changeable. So, for instance, the Commission is working in the area of standardization. Communication standardization has recently been published, and in the same area, the Commission published a common charger initiative recently that was adopted in September 2021. So, as a revision of the radio equipment directive. So this is also a bit coming in the same area, in the same field. And maybe one last initiative that will probably really be important in this area is the Sustainable Products Initiative, on which the Commission is currently working, which will take the form of a revision of the Eco-Design Directive. This is for the long term, because the aim is to have a first proposal by the Commission more or less before end of spring, but then there will be the need to have the implementing measures for the different product groups. But all these aspects of modularity, repairability will be the essential part of the initiative.
Thank you, Enrico. Peter wanted to comment next.
Many small things, and a tiny thing is that the charger wasn't mentioned from Enrico right now. So what we did is that we didn't buy the standard Samsung charger, the standard Apple charger. We supply with the charger with 2 holes, so that it has the lightning kind of thing that Apple really likes, and the old USB-A and the USB-C, so that it might work around the corners. So we don't know if it's going to work, but we try to look around the corners, and that's one really tiny thing.
That was a great tip, Peter. To end the panel, I will ask one final question. What would be your last tip for procurers to keep in mind when doing their next ICT procurement? Peter, go ahead. You can start.
The trend that we're seeing are the market, they're themselves saying that we can do this, we can do that. And the reason they say this now is that they can do it, of course, and the other is that they think they have, they think they're ahead. They think they're better than the competitors on environmental issues, which is a really, really good thing. So in a market conference, before writing the requirements, we ask, how hard should the requirements be? How far can we go? So ask that question. How far can we go?
Thank you, Peter. Marieke, you wanted to comment.
Maybe a bit of an odd one, but I would want to ask everyone to sit in your organization and ask yourselves, what can we avoid to buy? How can we buy less? Before you start the procurement process, and really think critically about the consumption pattern in your organization.
Thank you, Marieke. Sari, go ahead.
Excellent point of the not buying anything you don't really need. Then, of course, my key takeaways here would be set requirements to your supplier. Think how you buy, how you use, and then what happens after the use phase is about to end.
Thank you, Sari. Enrico, would you like to add something to this?
I mean, I'm really happy because I heard what I was thinking about. So needs assessment, first of all, can we avoid to buy something, or can we buy something different? And then engage with the market engagement, what the market will be able to do. So, of course, and my suggestion will be also depending on where a certain contracting authority is, but for all contracting authorities to start, to try to get in contact with others that they are doing the same thing, like the ICT Pact that was mentioned and presented today. So to start, and maybe to start with something with one contractor if they are really at the beginning, and focus on this instead of maybe starting with many contracts at the same time. Focus on one, and be sure that they get it right and they have the sufficient resources, especially at the beginning, to learn from it and avoid the mistakes or forgetting something at the first experiences.
Then, thank you, Enrico. Excellent points. It's a pity to close this interesting discussion, but we will now go for a short break. We'll get back on 25 past, and then we will hear presentations from procurers how they have managed to do more sustainable and circular ICT procurements. Next section is also important for the suppliers to be awake. We will hear on what kind of aspects the buyers appreciate and what sustainability goals they will have on their ICT procurement. Thank you for all of our panelists. You were great. And the discussion was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a short break. Everyone, hope you all had time to get a cup of coffee. Now we will go to good procurement practices and inspiring cases that we can all learn from. In the upper right corner, you can see a poll for procurers. Which sustainability aspect you have already considered in your ICT procurements? Please go and answer the poll question. It seems that now most voters have considered recycling of devices, environmental labels, and also social and ethical aspects. That is great to hear. The idea in this section is to learn from each other and share experiences. So I encourage the audience to ask and comment in the chat during the next presentations. Also, in the chat, you can find a link to book a one-on-one meeting with suppliers representing here today. Use that opportunity also. Our next speaker is Kalle Hietaranta from Hansel. Hansel is a central purchasing organization here in Finland. And Kalle will let us know on how to take responsibility and sustainability in account in computer purchases. We will also learn how proper recycling of computers can be verified. Go ahead, Kalle.
Thank you very much. Most likely you see my presentation now. Good.
Yes.
So, thanks for the speakers before me. So it was excellent by Alexandra to lead us to this important topic, and excellent panel discussion as well. And like said, I'm Kalle Hietaranta from Hansel, and we serve our purchasing solutions for central and local governments in Finland. And I work as a head of unit there, and our team is responsible of the ICT purchases really widely. And today I, on a high level, show some things to discussion, what to consider on sustainability and responsibility in the context of ICT procurement. And I go that through by one case related to computer purchases, but let's go on. So in general, as we have spoken today already, there are a lot of risks identified in relation to sustainability and responsibility in ICT manufacturing and purchasing. And we as a public buyer, our role is to identify those, of course, and mitigate those by applying certain requirements in relation to sustainability and responsibility. Of course, we work in the context of public procurement, and that always brings some things to be taken into account. But anyway, the main points and main risks and mitigation actions are there existing also for the public procurement. So where you can find criteria to concretely take into account is, for example, the discussed GPP criteria. There are several of those as discussed and as we all know, and also code of conduct requirements and contract terms for the supply chain. And there we can state also the fact that supply chains in ICT sector, they are really long, from raw materials to components to sub-assemblies and assemblies, and finally the end product through the sales channel to end customer. So you really need to think that as well when you set those requirements and contract terms, to which level of the supply chain you will set those. And now shortly about the computer purchases. So we have joint procurement solution on computers made by Dynamic Purchase System, which basically means that it's open for the applicable suppliers and also for customers over its lifetime. Our object of the procurement here is really wide, so basically all kind of computers from laptops, desktops, tablets, but also rugged computers and special computers, for example, to police or hospitals. In this DPS model, all purchases are done by customers in mini tenderings. So those are always needed prior to the actual purchases. So I will first go through what we have taken into account on the DPS level, and then shortly go on a high level what customers then can go in a deeper level in their mini tenderings. But on a DPS level, we highly encourage and give materials for the customers to enable these things, that long service life of purchase products is there. So we encourage that both technically, meaning specifications like discussed already in the panel discussion, and also mechanically the devices are long lasting. So there are good grounds for the long life cycle. Typically in our customer base, life cycles are 3 to 4 years, and usually they have also on-site maintenance service. So it's really making possible the long life cycle that service is taken place at the office. At least before the pandemic situation, it was really efficient. Also, the longer warranty periods are possible. So this also supports the longer life cycle of the product. In this joint procurement solution, DPS, it's possible to purchase used second-hand computers. Also, a wide range of recycling services of the used products have been included, including also the redemption service of the used products, so that we can enable the efficient utilization of the aftermarkets. Code of conduct requirements have been widely taken into account also to the contract terms. And what then on a customer level? For some reason now the slide doesn't change. Just a second. I try to get the next slide. Now, just a second. There should be, yes, now it changed. Sorry. So on a customer level mini tendering, customers can specify even further those sustainability requirements. And customers can also set their own requirements for products and services and put them also to qualitative comparison criteria. So not only the price is the thing that, or the parameter that defines the winner, but also qualitative comparison criteria, of course, can be used, as we all know. And these sustainability and responsibility requirements can be handled also as a qualitative comparison. But what are typical customer mini tendering level criteria can be, for example, packaging or package materials related things. There can be defined that there should be less materials for packaging or recycled materials, and also the recycling of the packaging materials after those devices have been delivered to the customer. Also, requirements on a more detailed level of the devices materials, for example, are those reused materials, and also the durability, how the device has been constructed and how durable it is. Energy efficiency of the devices over the life cycle can be taken into account. Also, different logistic options can be compared, for example, from calculative carbon dioxide emissions, etc. And all other things that customers from their own needs and targets can come up with, those parameters can be applied in mini tenderings. And last to say, also leasing is possible and an option for the customers to think when they think their computer needs and purchases, and leasing with all related services there. Since we don't have so much time, I quickly show some sources and materials. The EU level GPP criteria for computers, monitors is applicable here, and most likely you know where to find it. And just to quickly promote that in Finland currently is ongoing Procurement Finland project, and its pages is linked here. And there are some materials also in English, so just go to the pages, and despite of the Finnish language, take your time to find that English material there. There is, for example, a lot of material related to code of conduct. So please feel free to find that. Thank you. That was my presentation, and now any questions?
Thank you, Kalle, for a great presentation and also promoting the Finnish site and materials. There is currently no questions for Kalle, but you can still put in the chat questions Let's just wait for 1 minute and see if there will be any. No, apparently not. Thank you, Kalle, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Next, we will have Peter Jeffel, that we already met in our previous panel. In case you came online later, Peter is from Viken County, from Norway, and works as a public procurement advisor. Viken has a fairly new procurement guidelines for cell phones that includes prepare, leasing, extended warranty, and take-back schemes for used cell phones. You're also experienced in using second-hand or older phone models in your organization, aren't you, Peter? Go ahead.
Thank you for the introduction. I will be talking, just like you mentioned, about warranty, about updates, about repair, and parts and all that. So it's correct that we just started our cooperation with IKEA. So we have met earlier today. We started in November, and we will be renting, leasing our phones. But first, I will be starting with the good news, just to kick off and show you some of our winnings. The reason that I think of it as a success or a winning is that as we spoke to the market, they said, no, it can't be done. And then we said, we will do it anyway. So I will show you what it is. And so repairability is something that the French, they introduced in January 1st. So we thought that if it's already done, it can be done in Norway as well. So on French sites, you see a number. And on that number, the customers can make a decision. Is this a phone that is easy to repair or not? And as you can see, on Apple, they have a repairability of 6 on this specific model, and on Samsung 8.2. So when you choose between models, you're told that this is easy to repair and this one is hard to repair. So we asked the market, can this be done? And as I mentioned, they said, no, this is so difficult. This is new. We have to wait for legislation. But we moved ahead anyway. My thought was, if you easily can go, I'm not saying that everyone knows French, but if you easily can go to their site, I will show you. So here on the site, there you have it in French, and you have the repairability. So I was thinking, why don't you just pick it from the sites, and you can use it anyway. I didn't see it as a stopping thing. So here it is. Of course, I took away the prices, but here's our phones, and it's reparasjonsvennlighet in Norwegian. So we put all the repairability index. So why on earth do we do this? I mentioned that they make decisions when they buy phones, and they can see, I want this phone, and this one is better than the others. But also is that we're adding pressure to Apple and Samsung and all the others. And the pressure works. Apparently, pressure works. And that's the entire day is all about, and where I'm glad to be invited and talk about this subject. We have to pressure and move ahead. So this was just the first one, and part of the good news, I was thinking. So that I moved up to, on top of my presentation, the message to the market. I only have 10 more minutes, so I just wanted to make sure that what we need, what I think that we need, is a longer warranty. We need available parts for a longer time. We need to repair the stuff instead of throwing it away. And therefore, the repairability index, it has to be possible to repair it. And the next question is also, who is going to repair it? Does it have to be the producer? Could it be anyone? Could it be us? We're 11,000 employees, and 100 of them, there are students working for us in a learning environment. So they are learning how to repair. So if they could repair without breaking the warranty, well, those are just questions and thoughts. So to be able to repair and the right to repair is part of my my speech today. And the second point I was thinking of making is security updates. Security updates is making it impossible for us to use the phone for as long as the life of the product. Our security department, they say that we want security updates. Of course they say that. We all want that. But it's not given. So what I'm sharing now is that Samsung, they say that they have 4 generations. But if the phone lasts for longer, what do we do then? So in our enterprise market, or in our organization, we demand and we want security updates. But the market that we talk to, excuse me, is Atea and others. But the suppliers of, or the ones that decide the security updates, they are Apple and they're Android. So when we talk to the market, they have to move back and ask for theirs. So we have to have this pressure, but how is it supposed to be done? So what we're seeing is that we have phones that last longer than security updates. This is a problem. So that's one of the messages to the market that I wanted to send. I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with that. Volvo is renting out their cars. It's not about Volvo today, but I was thinking of mentioning that what would change if we would rent a PC, rent a projector, rent smartphones from Apple, from Samsung. Now we're leasing it from Atea. It's wonderful. That means that we're motivating Atea so that when they get the phones back from us, there is a rest value that they need to gain by selling it to someone else. It's wonderful. But if it would be from Samsung, it would be from Apple, then they would be motivated to make things that last even longer. So what I'm hoping by sharing the example from Volvo is that by making a car that is owned by Volvo the whole time, Volvo will be motivated, I think, to keep the car going as long as possible because it's Volvo's car. Maybe Apple could think of this, maybe Samsung could think of this. So I'm sharing it with Atea and all the other suppliers. Maybe you could go to manufacturers and say, would you rent this? How about making things that last longer? So my thought is that if Apple is owning the object, Atea can rent it to us, then they would be interested in having a security update and iOS and Android updates for far longer. Just a thought. So those were my 3 messages to the market. I look at the phone and there is the time runs really fast. But about our case, one of the things that we did is that we cut landlines and replace it with mobile phones. So that's a cost cutting. So that's how we win some money from this, and it also makes it far easier. So people do not have 2 numbers. They don't have a landline and a mobile phone. They have 1 number, and it's far easier, we think. And all the phones that were on desks of people, they're not there anymore, and we don't have to buy a new one, so I don't have to repair and don't have to have that system at all. A next question for us was, how frequent should we change phones? And we had 2 years now, and we didn't really say we didn't say it out loud really, but we said that the lease is for 3 years. So leasing is maybe not the important part here. We could buy them, but by leasing, it's normal. It's a communication tool. It's about that your lease is 3 years, so people expect to have the phone for 3 years. So it's a trick, really. I think that many of the things that we've done can be done by buying phones, but we've chosen to lease because it's about communication as well. One of the big choices for us was to see should people have one phone or two phones? One of the big questions that we always get is why don't you buy used phones? Our choice, maybe it's an excuse, but our choice was that if we would buy used phones for our 11,000 employees, maybe they would go out in the shop and buy a second one. And so if we choose to buy a new phone and a quite fancy one, our thought is that we don't buy the absolutely latest, but the before generation. So it's a good phone, and it's supposed to be good enough to be used in the evenings and also at work. So that's one of the choices that we made. What we are hoping for is that we have it for 3 years, and Atea, they will get it back and they will sell it to someone for the next 3 years. So that was the used or new. One of the reasons is also mentioned, we needed a security update and MDM, management of devices. It was tough to get that to work with used ones. I'm not a technician, I don't know, I just heard that answer. So we went for new phones. That's not a recommendation. If you can make it work with old phones, that's wonderful. Some call it reloved phones, secondhand, what you can get to do with them. So as I mentioned, the lease is about the forced return. And the lease time will, of course, be one of your choices. Some have 2.5 years, some have 3, so maybe you could have longer. So that's also something that you can talk to the market about, because what we thought is that if we have it for 3 years, there is a rest period which is long enough so that you actually can spend the time, so that, well, Atea will spend the time to sell it and use it somewhere else. So one of the smaller things that we did is that all our phones can have dual SIM card. And that's back to the 1 or 2 phones per person. So if we try to make them have one phone, they might want to have 2 numbers. They have one number for work and they have a different number for their family and life. And so that's why all phones have dual SIM, so that they can have 2 SIM cards and they can put in a private SIM card if they want to. On delivery, they get an extra glass. So the glass is already on there. We thought that was important. They don't get a phone and a glass because they might not put it on, or they put it on the wrong way or whatever. So we asked the distributor to put the glass on before delivery. There is always a cover or a wallet included so that the phone is protected. And we also put it in the requirements that if the phone goes into repair and it's lacking glass or it doesn't have a cover, then it should be returned with extra glass. We say that 2 minutes left here. We say that the charger is for free, but you have to ask for it, meaning that you have to put it in the shopping cart. So if you have chargers at home, we're not forcing you to have another. Same goes for earphones. So if they have big headsets, many of us do, and then they don't need to buy a new one. So the 3-year lifespan is about that. What we communicate is that when you had it for 3 years, we take it back, and that's also important for Atea. So Atea, we're their stock in one sense. We have thousands of phones that Atea know that they can sell, and they know when they get it back. So some people say, but I can have my phone for 4 years. That's okay. Well, to make it possible to have a second a market to sell it as a second hand, we think that it has to be 3 years, and it has to be exactly. So that was the time. I'm jumping to the money so that you see that of all the requirements that you heard now, we still have lower prices than the market. And I check this every month, and we're doing fine. So I really like that. Well, we managed to have so many requirements, and we're still lower prices. And we're not paying the entire amount. Let's say that it's €1,000. then we pay maybe 9,000, maybe 8,000, because the rest, the €100 which is left, when we give the phone back, that's the rest value, and Atea has in their plan to gain that money. So we both pay less than the market, and we have a lower cost of the product. We pay, not saying the number exactly, but let's say 80% of the product. That was my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Peter. You gave us excellent tips for the next procurements. There was so many things that the other procurers can follow up on and take into account when doing their next procurements. Thank you. So next we have Elvira Langenborg. She is from the city of Kalmar, Sweden. The city has long history with collecting computers from all municipal departments so that these products can be refurbished and reintroduced in the second-hand market. And because of good results, they're planning to scale up the system to other devices. Go ahead, Elvira.
Well, thank you very much for having me here on this conference. I'm very pleased to be here. I will speak to you about how we handle these IT products from Kalmar, from the city of Kalmar, which is also a municipality. And the municipality has about 70,000 inhabitants and 6,000 employees. So that's the screen set. So let's see if I then can share my presentation. Here we go. And I think it's there, yes. So I am an ecological sustainability development manager. I'm not working daily life with procurements, but I work with sustainability. So that's my enter to this conference. And I have been to the municipality of Kalmar here for almost 3 years. And what I will tell you about now has a longer history than that, but I hope I can give it to you, present it to you pretty clear anyway. I will start by giving a very short background on how we are going circular. I imagine it like a staircase like this. And for us, it started back in 2007, when we set the first goal, sort of the first strategic goal for ecological sustainability, to become a municipality without fossil fuels and to end the use of all fossil fuels within our municipality organization by 2023, so leaving us less than 2 years to do that now, and for the geographical area of the municipality by 2030.
Sorry to interrupt, Elvira. Could you put your presentation on presenter mode?
I thought I had. Okay, sorry about that. Is it better now?
No, sadly not.
No. Sorry, we'll have to do it again then.
Fine. It's always like this with presenting it.
Let's see. Not so sure why I do that though.
No rush. Give you a bit more time, so there is absolutely no rush.
Is that the one? No. So let's stop sharing and we'll see.
Try resharing. So
let's try resharing and let's see if it works better now. If I do this first, sorry about that. Does not really work. So if we do this instead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In any case, if you cannot share it, then we will be sharing all the presentations after this event to all participants. So no worries, everyone will get.
Do you see that it's changed the slides, or is it not working that either?
We can see the slides, but not in presenter mode. Maybe we go ahead anyway.
Okay. Yeah, we do that then.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, so the goal was actually set then, as I said, in 27. And after that, a few years later, we improved our work with a policy for procurement, a policy that states that sustainability matters must be in every procurement that we do, and it has both ecological and social focus. And that policy was first set in 2014 and has also been improved since. After that, a few years later, to make it even easier for the purchasers, we had a checklist in 2019, and this checklist has concrete questions for us to answer. Questions like, what are the gender issues in this affair? What's the eco footprint, for example? How can we help young people to enter the market by asking that kind of questions? So a checklist to make sure that the implementation of the policy is there, and the goal as well. And this has also been improved this year, where we had a new political mission to actually stress sustainable procurements and a special focus on circularity and also on climate neutrality. And that goes together with our new long-term goal that was set this year to become a circular society, and again within our own municipality by 2030, and the society as a whole by 2045. Yes, so also I just recently learned, and I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but electronic and electrical waste, or e-waste, is actually the fastest growing waste stream within the EU, and only something like 40% is recycled. So really we have lots to do here, and we can all imagine the effects that have also on the environment, but also on social circumstances in the countries where we collect the raw materials for our equipment. And locally, if we go back 10 years, we had a system where pretty much old-fashioned equipment, lots of different models, lots of different ways of handling this. Every department had their own way. And that, of course, gave us a lot of problems with support, with problems using the computers, and we didn't have shared routines. So we had a need of shared routines, and we also had a need to prolong the lifetime of the products, and also to make sure that they could also be repaired, not just used. What we did and what we still do is that we first started out with a centralized economical management system, so that we have the IT department is in charge of everything runs through them, and all the other departments, they hire their equipment from the IT manager department. And this also, of course, led to that we could limit the amount of models that you can choose from, making it easier to swap and switch and use the same product, so to speak. We also set the fixed time for using the computer of 3 years. So less fuss and less discussion about that. It's fixed and the same for everyone. We have the central return system, which is then in collaboration with Inrigo. So the IT department, they buy the products, we hire them, we use them for these 3 years. Then we put them into the cupboards that you can see, a small picture, hopefully you can see it. And Inrigo will go and collect these items. They will take them to their factory, they will check them, they will make sure that there's no data left on them. and they then sell them on if they can, and that income is divided between Inrego and the municipality. And so there's a second-hand market that another person can use the item before it goes to recycling. So that makes us an extra reuse before recycling. And I will speak shortly about the results from last year. More than 1,800 items were collected. Mostly laptops and mobiles, but also desktops and disks, and Inrego gave us the calculation that we have saved a lot of CO2 emissions by doing so. 80,000 kilos only for 1 year last year, but if we add it up since we started this, 360 tons CO2 equivalents are saved. And last year we had a reuse level of 60%. So 60% for reuse and 40% for recycling. And that was actually a step back from previous years, because we have an average of 80% now of reuse. And we also have top years with even more. But as we add new products to the system, some of these products will be older and not in a good shape to reuse, then they will go to recycling. So I will also speak shortly about the other effects that this has on our organization. Less downtime, so we can work. The computers don't cause us very much problem. We have better routines, and we know who will do what part of this process and chain. We have high contract fidelity. We only buy from the contracted businesses, saving us obviously a lot of money. And we have better data and monitoring. And this is the point of high level of information security, which is the part that IT department stresses the most. It's really important that we don't leak any information that should not go outside our organization to a second-hand user. So the footprint, obviously, less wastage, more reuse, and more recycling. And as we have such a good experience with this, and as you mentioned in the introduction, we want to add more products to this. More than 4,000 mobile has entered the system, and we also think about Chromebooks from schools to enter the system. And well, it goes in line with a general rising focus on reuse and circularity in all other areas also when we do procurements, so for furniture or building material or other items also. And I think you can just sum it up to that you can keep the good standard, but you can actually use less. So that's the whole point. So thank you, and I'm sorry about the presentation mood, but hopefully you got some information anyway. Thanks.
Thank you, Elvira. We sure did get a lot of information in your presentation. And it's actually nice to hear and see a person instead of a presentation on these times when you seem to be viewing presentations all day long.
Yes.
Thank you. There seems to be no questions, so I'll thank you. And next we will focus in more detail to the ethical issues. And we'll get a presentation from the Stockholm region. Kathleen McCaughey, manager on sustainable supply chains, will present on their follow-up on contractual obligations on human rights. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I work for Region Stockholm. Region Stockholm is not just the city of Stockholm, it's the entire region consisting of about 26 municipalities. And we're responsible for providing healthcare and public transport to our citizens. I've been asked to speak about social criteria and how we follow this up, how we follow up compliance in our contracts. We collaborate with all the other regions in Sweden, and all the regions share the same code of conduct. We've done so since 2010. It's based on the UN Global Compact, so it encompasses both human rights, labor rights, environment, and anti-corruption. Code of conducts are good, they're necessary, but they're not enough. Our code of conduct, and I think many are, some parts are concrete, but some parts are very aspirational. For example, it says in our code of conduct that a supplier should strive for living wages down the supply chain. So if you're going to follow that up, what is striving? And supply chains are extremely long and complex, especially in the IT sector. So code of conducts, yes, but extremely important that we take the more concrete parts of code of conducts and we put them into binding contractual terms. So in the contracts, there we stipulate that we expect our suppliers to perform the contract and to do so respecting the International Bill of Human Rights and lots of international standards. And again, the supply chains are long and complex. So when we do a follow-up, what we look for is everything in the pink box. Do they have a policy commitment to respect human rights, for example, labor rights, anti-corruption, environmental laws in the countries of production? Do they communicate this policy and the demands down the supply chain? Do they have an internal division of responsibility? Do they do risk analyses? Do they know where the risks are in the supply chain? And by risks, I don't mean risks of not being able to deliver on time or risks to their own company. I mean risks of breaching human rights and labor rights. Do they follow up their supply chain? And how do they manage non-compliance? So very important to have this in our contracts, which we do. I think this is also interesting. I'm thinking about the Norwegian legislation that's coming in July. It's an interesting landscape coming up in the EU as well. There's going to be a proposal for obligatory human rights due diligence. So how we work with our contracts in the future, if there's also legal obligations to perform this kind of due diligence, is going to be interesting. So a bit more about this cooperation we have with the other regions. We all basically have many of the same suppliers, and it's pointless with our limited resources to be doing audits of the same suppliers. So we've divided a bit of the responsibility. We've identified high-risk areas, and we're region C over here. We have extra responsibility for IT. So we're more aware of those risks, and we focus on following up those suppliers in our supply chain. And then we share the information amongst ourselves. So the process, just to give a recap. So we have the code of conduct. We've put things into our contract, so it's binding. We do risk assessments, so we know what to look for, what to ask for. We do auditing and monitoring. And then when we find non-compliances, because we work together with our suppliers for corrective actions. So how do we do this in practice? Many of our suppliers are resellers. I think, as I've heard others speak as well. And so an audit for us is basically going to our supplier, because that's who we have a contract with, and checking whether they have what was in the pink box, basically, the routines, the policies, the procedures. Do they do due diligence? And then, so it's routines that we're checking up. We have the resources to do about this was pre-COVID when this was possible, together with the other regions, one factory audit a year, which is, basically not very much. But we can also ask to see audit reports that have been performed by third parties and using credible methods. There's also monitoring organizations, for example, Electronics Watch, that can give you a better idea of the worker's perspective, because that's very much lacking in this industry. There are very few labor unions, for example, in the production countries. We've also worked with putting reporting requirements in the contract. So this is in the contract if we want to address a specific risk. So if you take mobile phones, for example, please report within 6 months how you're dealing with the specific risks of conflict minerals or cobalt in the supply chains. And then that's a good channel or a way to start a dialogue together with your supplier and also with the brands, actually, because they're the ones who are actually doing this work. And your supplier becomes like a partner in this dialogue. And once again, these corrective action plans, what we've put in our contracts, we have the possibility to terminate a contract. So that's possible. Our first course of action, however, is working together with our suppliers. And sometimes we do uncover breaches down the supply chain. Sometimes it's just routines, but no matter what it is, our first course of action is for improvements. So this is just what we do on a routine basis. Then this kind of thing happens once in a while. Either a civil society organization or the media will uncover very serious breaches or risks of them in the supply chains. We worked with this issue very much last year. And what we did, if you're familiar with this report, it was released in March 2020, and it's about forced labor in different supply chains, not just IT, but in a province of China and even outside of that province, targeting ethnic minorities. So we together, then our collaboration became even wider for this. We worked with municipalities, with national organizations, even with the Swedish church, to combine our forces to address this, since we have limited resources. And what we managed to do on the IT side was to follow up 17 of our largest suppliers, which covered 25 brands. And the first step, of course, was mapping the supply chain. Where are things being produced? Where are components being produced? Is there manufacturing in this high-risk area of Xinjiang? And if it's outside of Xinjiang, what are you doing, or what are the brands doing to ensure that there is no forced labor? What methods are being used? Are they credible methods to be able to uncover these risks? So because we have very short time, I'm really flying over these issues. But I wanted to end with, I don't know how many organizations, or especially public organizations, that are listening, but if you haven't started with your follow-ups, these are just a few recommendations. One, cooperation. Reach out. We share many of the same suppliers. We can learn from each other and share some information. Know your risk. You will not be able to follow up all of your suppliers. So focus on the ones that are providing you with high-risk goods. Have the binding contractual obligations, not just a code of conduct. If you can do some verification at the time of bidding, do so. You'll save time later to either to have qualification of your suppliers, or to promote the ones that have come further, and even put money on it. If you don't have the competence internally to work with this, but you have a bit of a budget, there are lots of auditors and professionals that are able and willing to do this for you. And if you can monitor the supply chains through having a dialogue with your supplier, performing audits or asking to see audits, or using monitoring organizations such as Electronics Watch, that's also a good idea. And try to be reactive when possible, even if it's just about making a meeting with your supplier and saying, I read about this in the newspaper, what are you doing to address this issue? I think it's very important that we keep asking questions to our suppliers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. That was a great presentation. There are currently no questions, so we will move forward. Next, we have our buyers' needs section. Just before lunch, we will have two interesting presentations from buyers that will present their procurement and sustainability goals for their upcoming tenders. First, please welcome Satu Turula, who is environmental planner from the city of Helsinki. Go ahead, Satu.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Okay, please bear with me while I try to share my screen.
Of course.
Okay, now can you see the slides correctly now? Sorry for asking.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Good day, everyone, from my behalf as well. And first of all, many thanks for the opportunity to share the City of Helsinki needs and strategic goals in our upcoming ICT tenders. And also very much thanks for the previous speakers for very fruitful insights to the topic as well, and good tips from fellow public buyers. My name is Satu Turula, and I work as an environmental planner in City of Helsinki. My main work is to help our procurers to consider the sustainability objectives in very various city procurements, and ICT is one part of them, of course. Helsinki is Finland's biggest public buyer. We have about 4 billion euros spent each year to procurement, and we have big ICT device procurements coming this year, so the issue is very, very, very topical for us. About our strategic goals, I'm not going to spend too much time with these, but a few words about them because they're quite ambitious in Helsinki. Our procurement strategy is from 2020, so it's quite new, and it basically guides the way we do procurements. And I would say that it is very comprehensive when it comes to responsibility and sustainability issues. I tried to minimize our goals into 2 points here. Of course, we have plenty of them and many more, but I find that these are the 2 most important ones when it comes to ICT. First, we want to be pioneers in our environmental and climate responsibility. And secondly, we want to promote social responsibility in our procurement. And this means that we want to take into account the impact of procurement on society at the local, national, and international levels or global levels. And of course, the global level in ICT procurement is key, and the human rights there.
Sorry to interrupt, Satu, but could you reshare your screen? It is not moving, the presentation, in case you went forward.
Interesting. I mean, the slides were moving here, but...
Yes, but apparently not to us, but no rush. Let's try again.
Yes, we will. Just a moment. Did you only see the first slide?
Yes, we only saw the introduction slide.
Okay, interesting. Let's see.
See slides, but not in presenter mode. Yes, let's try again. Can you try moving the slides forward?
Yeah, just a moment.
Tell me when you will go forward so I can tell you it's moving.
Just a moment. Something is wrong with the presentation. Okay, now I moved.
No, it doesn't move for us.
Okay.
Third time's the charm?
Hopefully. Okay. Well, what do you see now?
We see the first slide.
Okay. And does it move now?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, let's move like this. It's a bit difficult for me, but anyways, we'll manage. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay. Now we are in our circular economy targets. Oh well. I'll first start with our carbon neutrality target. So Helsinki strives to become carbon neutral by 2030. We made the goal a bit more ambitious because previously it was 2035, but now we are targeting 2030. We also have the roadmap for circular and sharing economy in place in Helsinki, and procurement is one of the big priorities there. And according to our circular economy roadmap, we need to add criteria promoting the circular economy, such as sustainability, repairability, recyclability, etc. And this is what we want to do also, of course, in our ICT procurements. In addition to our own procurement strategy, this is the Nordic joint statement that is also guiding our ICT procurements at the moment. Basically, the goal behind the statement was to challenge the market together with other Nordic cities to achieve fair and circular smartphones by 2025. And I have to admit that it's a big challenge for Helsinki at least, but that's where we are striving. Among other things, these are the goals that you can see on the slide that are included in our joint statement. And the joint statement was applied to smartphones, but the same objectives I see can be applied to other ICT devices as well. Okay, then let's move on to what we want to procure in the future. So here you can see how our ICT device procurements are working right now. So we mainly use them for in daycare, schools, healthcare, and office use. We procure approximately 22,000 pieces of workstations and tablets annually. And the estimated use time there is 3 to 4 years. And we have like a framework agreement with 4 ICT retailers right now in place. And then we do mini competitions annually. With phones, we have the same kind of working. We have framework agreement with 2 ICT retailers, and we do there as well mini competitions, and we procure approximately 10,000 phones annually, and the estimated use time there is a little shorter. We have, of course, had sustainability aspects previously. As well, we have had a requirement that a supplier has to receive as many devices as they have sold for us for recycling and disposal. We also have a requirement to pay attention for energy efficiency in services and devices. We have required, for example, TCO, at least in laptops, I know. Then when it comes to social responsibility, we have a requirement that the supplier and potential subcontractors comply with the 8 ILO conventions, the UN convention, and also the environmental and labor legislation of the product's country of production. We also use employment condition, and we also have a requirement for sustainability report or certificate on social responsibility audits. So those are some points that we have used before. Okay, and what about the upcoming tenders? We have actually two tenders coming in 2022. The first one to be tendered is the telephone contract. It will end in May already, so it's very soon. Then we have the IT device contract that will end in the end of this year. And these are very large contracts. The value of, for example, this IT equipment contract is about 15 million euros a year. And I asked about our ICT department that what are the trends that they are seeking in these procurements. And some points that they mentioned is the flexibility and expanding the range of services. So we are talking about a life cycle service. And then we want to include additional maintenance services. We see that the additional maintenance services are very important to make the lifespan of the device longer, and also to keep the devices in use inside the city. I see that's an important thing to consider, how we could use them inside our own organization. And then we are also thinking about the sale of used equipments. And all in all, I would conclude that we want to move from the strict technical requirements to more functional and sustainable requirements. And my last slide about the upcoming tenders. We want to have like a minimum level of sustainability that we want to ensure. Of course, this is all that you can see here is something that we built on top of the latest or the previous requirements that we already had. But first, we want to ensure that the level of social responsibility is on point. We want to make better use of contract monitoring to verify the desired level of responsibility. And we see that, for example, third-party audits would be very important in this. And in addition, we want to apply contract terms that require information on the supply chain. So we want to introduce the so-called supplier code of conduct, of course. And to extend the life cycle, there are some important points. You want to have sufficiently efficient devices to maximize the service life. We want to extend the warranty. We want to make sure that the upgradability of device and software, and also the security issues that have been discussed in this webinar as well, are on point. And we want also to extend the battery warranty period and, for example, introduce smart chargers. And the third point that we want to do is to try to organize the reuse and recycling as responsibly as possible. We want to understand how we could reuse more inside our own organization, and also we want to understand that what does it require to be sure that the reuse that is done somewhere else is done as sustainably as possible. But that was my presentation. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sato. That was a great presentation. It was nice to hear what Helsinki is procuring next. I'm sure the buyers will take advice on this. There is no questions in the chat, but there is a really lively conversation going on. So if you haven't visited the chat, please go ahead and do so. I encourage to continue the conversation there.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, last speaker before lunch is Nicolas Vorani from Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management. Go ahead, Nicolas.
First of all, thank you, Anna, for having me here, and hello to all of you participating at this conference. Bear with me as I put my presentation, PowerPoint in presentation mode. Can you all see it now? Can you see it, Anna?
Yes. Yes, perfect. We can see, but unfortunately not in presenter mode. Could you reshare it? Thank you.
Can. Is everything good now?
Can you press the small icon on the bottom to show it in presenter mode?
I have already done it, so it's quite unfortunate that it's not showing in presentation mode.
Do you have two screens? We are maybe...
No, I don't.
Let's continue, Justin.
Yes.
As it is. Good.
Once again, good day, everyone. My name is Niklas Dvorny, and I'm representing the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management here at this conference. I'm here to talk about buyer needs and strategic goals regarding our upcoming national framework agreement for reuse and recycling of ICT devices. I want to start my presentation by introducing my employer, the Central Procurement Body of Norway, and what we do. The Central Procurement Body of Norway is a part of the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management. Since we were established in 2016, our mandate has been clear. We create and administrate national contracts on behalf of governmental and federal organizations in Norway. I'm just here to check, Anna. Do you see on my next slide now? Or are you still at the first?
Unfortunately, it does not change for us.
Now?
Yes, now, good.
Now we'll do it like this. Like I said, our mandate has been clear since we were established in 2016. We create and administrate national contracts on behalf of governmental and federal organizations in Norway. We implement multi-million euro contracts on behalf of 190 governmental organizations. These organizations can be found all over Norway, from the tip in the south to Svalbard in the north. Furthermore, as we consist of 190 organizations, we have a significant influence on suppliers, not only in terms of contracts with good cost and quality aspects, but also in terms of sustainability aspects. As you can see at the presentation here, our contracts have achieved 80 million euros in savings for the Norwegian state. As of today, the Central Procurement Body of Norway have a sound and growing contract portfolio on ICT hardware devices, with national contracts on mobile phones and tablets, PC monitors, and PC clients. In the upcoming years, we aim to extend this portfolio. As you all can understand, by increasing our contract portfolio, the necessity of a national framework agreement for reuse and recycling of ICT devices is increasing simultaneously. I want to take a minute to talk about these two purchasing methods and our experience with them. In recent years, we have seen an increased trend in governmental organizations to procure ICT units as a service. This method of procuring has for a long time been promoted to be a sustainable way of purchasing units, because the suppliers make sure that the units will be bought and reused later by another consumer. This is correct, but we see through our national contract portfolio that the cost per unit increased considerably with this purchasing method. Is a high unit cost a sustainable way to acquire ICT units? If you choose to increase the cost somewhere, you have to lower them elsewhere. And where should that be? By lowering strategic goals in the public sector, perhaps by dismissing employees. As we are trying to challenge the market to come up with good solutions for these high costs when purchasing units as a service, we have unfortunately not found anyone in collaboration with them. This can partly be explained on the basis that suppliers have a business model that are based on having Norwegian consumers treat the units fairly well for only a few years in order to resell these projects in another market. In traditional purchase, we can, through our national framework contracts, negotiate low price on units, much lower than purchasing units as a service. The downside here is, from a sustainable perspective, that governmental organizations have no incentive to treat the devices in a good manner, usually because when it's no longer functional, it gets stored within the organization and they buy new ones. By establishing a national framework contract for reuse and recycling of ICT units, we take further account of safeguarding the sustainability aspect of traditional purchase of ICT units within the public sector, an aspect that has been used as the main argument for purchasing units as a service. In recent years, circular economy has become an important focus area, both nationally in Norway and internationally. Just a few months ago, the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management published a new action plan for increased share of green and innovative procurements that puts further focus on circular economy. As a result of this, our increasing portfolio on national ICT hardware contracts, we have been given a mandate to implement and create a national contract on reuse and recycling of ICT devices. We are in the phase of the procurement where we prepare a strategy for how we will execute the competition of the contract. Therefore, it's difficult to state what the exact end result will be, but the sustainability goal of our mandate is clear, as you see on the screen. This contract will enable sustainable handling of ICT devices after governmental and federal organizations consider that the devices is no longer functional to serve its purpose. By sending the devices to a certified supplier, we are pushing towards a more circular economy regionally, nationally, and globally through a focus on longevity, reuse, and recyclation of ICT devices. Currently, we are looking broadly at all the options that can help us reaching this goal and how we can combine them. We will ensure that used ICT devices in governmental and federal organizations is handled in a safe and environmental friendly manner. The agreement should ensure that all sensitivity data stored on the ICT devices is deleted in a secure manner before the equipment is reused or resold. Used ICT devices that is not suitable for reuse or resale should be destroyed in accordance with the Norwegian regulations on recycling and treatment of waste. We are aiming to establish a contract with the supplier within the third quarter of 2022. With that said, I want to use this opportunity to specifically address the suppliers that are watching this conference. In our project, we are now entering a market dialogue phase. I urge all suppliers that are considering entering our competition to make contact with us. The email address can be found at the presentation now, and I will also send it in the conference chat after my presentation. I see now that I only have a few minutes left, so I will respect my given time by speeding up the presentation. Earlier on, I presented our contract portfolio on ICT hardware devices. From these contracts, we have good statistics to make volume assumptions on this new contract. In this table up above, you see an overview of different estimates for the different contracts that we have. We want to emphasize that the numbers are tentative. Furthermore, it's important for me to emphasize that employees in governmental organizations occasionally have the opportunity to buy the residual value of mobile phones after 2 years of use. This depends on the policy within each governmental organization. I would like to talk about how we are constructing new contracts in regard to facilitate that governmental organizations extend the unit lifetime within the organizations. But I've just given the time to talk about our new contract for reuse and recycling of ICT units. Regarding all groups, specifically PC clients and mobile phones, some organizations are leasing units. Therefore, it's reasonable to believe that not the entire volume that's shown here will apply to this contract. Despite this, it's clear that Norwegian governmental organizations make an enormous volume of ICT devices that can be delivered to the supplier of this contract. We have conducted a buyer needs survey in Norwegian governmental organizations. Out of this survey, we have mapped out some interesting results and needs, and I want to share one of these findings with you. We asked the governmental organization which of the presented elements are important to your organization in this contract, and could you rank them by importance? In the table on the bottom right side, the elements are listed in the left column, and the remaining columns represent the importance of the elements. It's safe to say that securely erase of the ICT devices that has been handed to the supplier will be of utmost importance. We will explore the opportunity to establish a payback for the units that are handed in, but as you can see, this does not have a great importance among the organizations. I would like all of you to take a look at the bottom row and the element contribute to integration of people with disabilities or disadvantaged people into working life. As much as 86.5% of the governmental organizations claims that this element should have a certain degree of importance in this contract. And as I mentioned earlier in this presentation, the central procurement body of Norway has a significant purchasing power, considering that we are established national contracts on behalf of 190 governmental organizations. By establishing this contract, we will facilitate that the Norwegian governmental organizations can achieve major sustainable goals by reuse and recycle ICT devices. At the same time, we want to utilize this purchasing power to facilitate a reserved or inclusive contract for this competition. Inclusive contract in this context means that the competition will favor suppliers who facilitate the integration of people with disabilities or disadvantaged people into working life. Creating economic growth and new jobs through decent work is a prerequisite for sustainable development. By opening up to suppliers who facilitate the integration of people with disabilities or disadvantages, the Central Procurement Body of Norway is contributing to the reach UN Sustainability Goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. I must specify that this is a sub-goal of this contract that we seek to achieve. A further dialogue with the market is needed to explore and evaluate this element. But as we saw in the last foil, there is a demand and there is a wish from Norwegian buyers that we include this. As you see, my presentation is coming to an end, and I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for having me here and creating such an important event for all of us. I would like to remind the suppliers once again to contact us on the email address if you want further information about this contract. I'm looking forward to listening to supplier pitches and hear about solutions for more sustainable handling of ICT units later on today. My name is Nicholas Dvorani. Thank you all for your attention, and I wish you all a great experience at this conference and a great lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your presentation. Currently, there is no questions for you, but please keep an eye on the chat. There's a lot of conversation going on there, and there might be questions later. Now it's almost time for lunch, but before that, go and book a one-on-one meeting with the suppliers. You can now find the one-on-one meeting booking on the stream platform under the image. There is a separate tab for the booking. Remember to do that before lunch. After lunch, as Nicholas just said, we will have suppliers pitch on what kind of solutions they have for the challenges presented here during this morning. And we will also hear from labeling organizations what you get if you require a label from products or services. As a cherry on top, we will learn what ICT waste compensation means and maybe what does a module phone look like. Now we will have a lunch break and we will come back at 12:30. See you then. Hi, now we're back online. A new try. I hope you all had a good lunch. Now we will move on to company pitches. We will have a set of very quick pitches from companies, labeling organizations, and of waste compensation services. I will remind now the next speakers that everyone has only 5 short minutes for their pitch and then a couple for more questions. If you go over 5 minutes, then you can answer the questions in the chat and we will go on to the next pitcher. When you see me beside you on the screen, you will know that your 5 minutes is up. First, to start off, we have Jussi Jaakkola, Account Executive, Public Sales from 3Step-It. Go ahead, Jussi.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy to be here. And I try to share my presentation. Wait a second. Let me see how it goes. Okay. Now I should find still the... Okay, can you see my presentation? So I trust everything is okay, but happy to hear and talk about a few words about the 3Step-It. And I'm talking from Finland, where the company was founded in 1997, and we have been ever since in the forerunner and in the heart of the circular economy of the IT devices. And our mission in the nutshell is to make organizations more sustainable at every step. So the company was founded in Finland, but nowadays we have operations and country organizations in all the Nordic countries. So we have offices in Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, and we can provide more or less similar services in every Nordic country. And we also have remarketing centers in Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And I will later on tell you what we do in the remarketing centers. And the name 3-step IT, it comes from the 3 steps. We help our customers to acquire, manage, and refresh the IT devices. And we call this approach a technology lifecycle management. And we are somehow there in the middle of the financial companies, IT service and equipment providers and customers, and try to help them in every single step. And something about the numbers, what we have accomplished in the Nordic countries. We are a growing company, and last year our revenue was almost 700 million euros. And at the moment we are managing more than 2 million assets in our asset management system. And the last year we handled more than 500,000 used equipment in our centers. And 98% of the equipment, they found a new home. And just to highlight some numbers, so last year we had more than 500,000 used machines, and 98% of those found a new home. So we sold them to the second round, and so we extended the life cycle of the machines and computers quite significantly. And we also buy, part of our circular economy, also buy devices from the market. If you don't need it anymore, we buy them, and we made a data security for them and sell them to the second round to the other customers if possible. So we consider ourselves that we are leaders in IT financing and life cycle services. So we are really flexible. We build our service model to every customer. So it's all the time a bit different. We are totally brand independent. So we give our customers the freedom to choose technology they want and the brands. And we also want to be really, really transparent. And we have developed and invested a lot in the asset management system that we provide to our customers, and we believe it's the most advanced at the moment in the market. So we are here with our Nordic colleagues, Adam from Sweden, Christian from Norway, and Dorte from Denmark. And here you can see our email addresses, and we are really happy here to talk with you and in the online events. And now I think the 5 minutes is up, and it's time for the questions. So thank you. I can't hear anything but the...
Thank you, Jussi, for your presentation. There is currently no questions in the chat, but I encourage everyone to ask from the suppliers now any questions you have. And for Jussi, for your information, you can also answer the questions in the chat if there is any questions later on.
Hope there will be many. But thank you, myself and my colleagues. We are happy to answer with all the questions and talk to you during this event or after this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jussi. Sorry for the slight delay. Next, we have Sebastian Holmström, Sustainability Manager from Inrego. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Thank you very much. And I hope you can see my screen. It's really great to be here together. And I think it's been a really inspiring day. Great to hear a lot of different people working together for a circular, sustainable electronics industry. So I'm not going to talk too much about the problem, but we produce a lot of things with high emissions. About 80% of the emissions come from the actual production. So it's high emission, high waste. We use them way too shortly and we throw them away way too quickly. So what we at Inrego are doing is prolonging the lifetime of electronics, going from one user to a second user and to a third user in many times. So keeping the products in use. And that's the core of what we're working with. And we were founded in 1995, have worked with circular electronics for 25 years. And it's all about prolonging the lifetime of used electronics. We don't work anything with new equipment. We only refurbish, fix, and resell used equipment. So to get these life cycles working, as we saw on the last page with the use phases, what we really need to do is, first of two things. We need to sell our used equipment. We need to make sure that our used equipment is handled in a sustainable and secure way. And the other one is to buy refurbished equipment, because we need both of these circles to actually close the loops and not only prolong the lifetime and somebody else is using them. So if you look at the selling used equipment, then we have, of course, we need to have a secure data erasure. We need to think, there's a lot of logistics when you look on the reverse logistics. And you should work with a specialist on take back and reuse to actually get the value of the products that they actually consist. Because it's a huge value that is embedded in these products. And if you look at the other side of it, buying refurbished, of course, we need to close the loops. It's easier than ever to buy data erased, refurbished products with warranties as well. So these are the two main things, but then there's also, of course, other things. We need to use the products for longer that we already have in place. And we need to, when we buy new, of course, buying durable, buying sustainable, repairable products that will get the second and in a few cases, the third loop as well. So I'm going to show two cases, and sorry, the text is in Swedish here. This is two municipalities that I think are two great cases. And one of them was speaking earlier today, Kalmar municipality in Sweden. And why I want to highlight them is because they're thinking about this in a really great way and been working for a long time. As we could hear before, that to have a focus on reuse through the whole life cycle, from when we buy the product to we use the product, and from when we send it to recycling, to reuse. Because we need to think about it in the whole life cycle and not only buy, use, and then think about reuse. So actually thinking from the beginning. And the other case that I want to highlight is Nynäshamn municipality. And I think this is a great case on the other side from Takeback. And this is from actually buying refurbished products. And we see here that Nynäshamn, they procured refurbished electronics and they got better laptops. And I think this is impressive, and that when you're buying refurbished, you can buy models that you might not have been able to afford previously, and therefore getting better computers, laptops that will work for a longer time. So if I would give 3 tips for circular procurement: map your products, think what will happen at the end, at the beginning. And also, as we heard earlier today, think about the function of the product, not the specific model. And I think Nynäshamn did that. They said the screen should be this big, the battery should be this good, the hard drive, etc., etc. They said what it should deliver and not what model it should be. And I think that's a difference we need to do in the circular economy. And I think the third one is to learn from others. We heard so many great cases here today, and really need to be inspired and learn from others and not reinvent the wheel the whole time. So I hope that this has been interesting. And why should you talk with us at Inrego? Hope to see you at meetings before. Well, we only work with used products. and are specialists on retaining value of used equipment and reselling them with warranty. We reuse wide product range, everything from servers to laptops to smaller things. We work with smaller and bigger customer and flexible along the whole chain, because we know that every customer needs a different solution. But we can never, ever not, I always need to handle this data security in a sustainable and good way. And we have been reusing IT since 1995, so about 27 years. And that was quick 5 minutes from me, and I'm really happy to be here today, and I hope to speak with some of you later on this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian. As Sebastian said, there is the option of booking a one-on-one meeting with any of the suppliers pitching here today. So I encourage you to do so. There is now a link in the chat box to do exactly that. And then we'll move to the next pitch, which is from Lars Steffensen, the CEO of Elitcom. Go ahead, Lars. Lars, you're on mute. We cannot hear you currently. Let's try again.
So now it works.
Now it works.
Let me see if I can share window. Hope you can see.
Thank you.
Can you see? Okay. Yeah, my name is Lars Steffensen, and I work as a sales director at Elitcom. Elitcom is a distributor and a founding partner of Circular Computing, that is a carbon neutral remanufactured laptop. I think we can all agree on that the circular economy has positive impacts on the sustainable IT agenda. And that it's very important for topics as preventing resources, the climate issues, the e-waste challenges, and the environment in general. Circular computing is a remanufactured product, and it is a certified remanufacturer under the BSI 888-7. And that means that we can guarantee that the quality, performance, and warranty and service for each laptop is equal to new. And if we combine this certification with our verifications, it could be the ISO standards and the ethical standards, we believe that we have the best alternative to new and the best alternative to used. And what is remanufactured? Actually, it is when we have a laptop, it enters our production facility. It has a 5-hour remanufacturing process. And what we do is that we check components, and defect components are being replaced or repaired. We check for use marks from previous user, and then we can actually repair all use marks from the previous user. If the screen is okay but has some small scratches, white dots, or pressure marks from the keyboard, we can polish it and put on a new Polaroid so it's as new again, so we don't have to change it. When we have done all of these things, we repaint the keyboard so it is as new, and then we repaint the chassis so it looks like a brand new laptop. We have been doing some testing with remanufactured IT in public procurement in Denmark. Started out with the municipality a little over 2 years ago. Had some experience with them and got feedback from the user and their support center. And it was a very good feedback that we got. So we started phoning municipality by municipality by municipality and we ended up having 2 handfuls of municipalities that are buying on a regular basis. And the reason why they do this is because of the benefits that you see on this sheet. So the business case for the circular economy model and for remanufactured is obvious. There are some commercial benefits and there are some sustainability benefits. What we see from the customers is that they really like the quality is the same, that we have availability, can deliver from stock in scale, or remanufacture for order, and that the consistency is also very important. And when it comes to sustainability, it's clear that we can deliver a carbon neutral product is very important. We plant 5 trees for every laptop that we sell, and that we can prevent resources or can preserve resources in the ground instead of digging it up. And we also save 190,000 liters of water buying remanufactured instead of buying new. Together with customer ATOS, we did measure device performance. We did the measuring with a reference base of 64 devices from the customer with a circular computing remanufactured ThinkPad T470S. And this is the result that came out of it. So it really shows that the remanufacturing a product and prolonging it, prolonging the lifetime of the laptop really helps on the performance. I can say a lot of our products and all the good things about it, but the most important is that what does the customer says, and this is Balfour Beatty with 26,000 employees. They have bought 6,000 circular computing remanufactured HP Elite books, and they're really happy with it and would recommend it anytime. So you can see the commercial benefits they had and the sustainability outcomes. There is also a video with an interview with them, and I would be happy to share that with you anytime. When we deliver these laptops for our customers, they would like to...
Thank you, Lars.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but your time is up. It's
okay.
It is very short.
I'm done.
I hope that the procurers will book a one-on-one time with you to discuss this further. And please keep an eye on the chat. There is questions coming in regularly for the previous speakers. We will now move on to labeling organizations and learn how their criteria or the label itself can be utilized in procurements. First, we have Annika Uveröder from TCO Development. Go ahead, Annika.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and to talk about TCO Certified. And I'm going to give you a brief introduction to TCO Certified, which is an independent sustainability certification used by purchasers all over the world. And it's important to know that all the criteria are verified by an independent third party. We update the criteria every 3 years, and then we follow the principles for ISO 14024 type 1, which means that it can be trusted by public purchasers. And we are a non-profit company organization, and it's free to use TCO certified in procurements. And currently we have over 3,500 certified models in 11 product categories. And it's all from the independent big brands, internationally big brands. And the vision of TCO Certified is that IT products should have an environmentally and socially sustainable life cycle. And we do this with our certification programs. So for the production, the manufacturing should be socially responsible. and the manufacturers should work to reduce the environmental impact from both the production and the product, the hazardous substances added to the product. And for the use phase, we look into extending the product lifetime, because this is the best thing we can do for the products. And we also look at to reduce the climate impact from the products, the use of the products. And for the take back phase, we want the people to use, or the organizations to use, environmentally responsible product take back programs, and the manufacturers to tell where the product should be possible to recycle. And we also encourage them to have requirements to design the product for responsible recycling. And all products that are certified are listed in our products finder, which is available at the webpage. And now I want to highlight a few of the areas that are important to extending the lifetime of the products, to be able to reuse, recycle, and remanufacture the products and refurbish the products. And for this, we have criteria for good user properties, that the product should be durable, it should be possible to drop the products without breaking. It should be possible to replace the battery and other critical parts, like the screen of a display, that the battery should have a certain capacity, and that the product should be equipped with standardized components. Safe data removal and warranty and spare parts are other important issues that's been lifted and discussed earlier here today. We also know that if you are using a product for a long time, it's going to be recycled, remanufactured, refurbished, and so on. It's so important that it doesn't contain so many hazardous substances. And the fact is that restrictions like RoHS and REACH directive doesn't automatically mean that there is a use of safer chemicals in the products. Because if you don't have control of what substances that are added instead, there might be substances that are more hazardous than the ones that are forbidden by the legislation. And to avoid this, we have developed a list of substances that we accept to be added to the products. And we call this list TCO Certified Acceptance Substance List. It contains non-halogenated flame retardants and plasticizers, and also processed chemicals. And chemicals on this list, they have been assessed by licensed profilers that are checking them according to a benchmarking tool called Green Screen. And in this way, we are driving transparency and also a paradigm shift into the business. TCO Certified, all the backbone of TCO Certified is actually the verification process. So what we actually do is that we require all the criteria in a certification document to be fulfilled before we issue a certificate. That means that the manufacturers need to send their products to independent verifiers, to test labs to test the product, but they also have to have auditors going to the factories to see that the working conditions are in accordance with the criteria we set up. And during the certificate's validity time, that's 2 years, we also encourage spot checks of both the products and the manufacturing. So we have auditors going to the factories doing spot checks. And if we find problems, that you all often do, is that we set up corrective action plan to solve these issues that we have found. And when these issues has been solved, we do a closure audit. So we check that everything is up to the status that we set in our criteria. And we also have checked that the test labs work according to ISO 17021 and 25. And we do regular round robin procedures to check that the test labs have the same type of status. And to sum up TCO Certified, It is a tool for purchasers that want to make sustainable choice of products. It makes it easier. It also reduces the risk of greenwash. We know that a lot of environmental claims on the market today are false. And it saves purchasing resources as the criteria and verification for important issues is included in the certification program. We go beyond legislation and compliance. It also can contribute to your sustainability reporting. And when purchasers use TCO certified to address environmental and social issues in the supply chain, we gather the purchasing power, and with joint efforts, we drive the sustainability in the ICT sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annika. Next, we will have Karin Bergbom from Nordic Ecolabel. Go ahead, Karin.
Thank you. I hope my screen is now visible. So I'm a criteria manager in the Nordic Swan Ecolabel, situated in Finland in the Finnish office. But we, as Nordic Swan Ecolabel, as probably all of you know, is a Nordic ecolabel and established by the Ministries of Nordic Council in 1989. So we have been on the market in over 30 years. We are now in 55 product groups and covering over 25,000 products. We are extremely known in all Nordic countries. In Finland, up to 93% of the consumers recognize the label, and I think in Sweden it's almost 100%, something like 98%. As TCO, we are independent third-party certification. We work according to a standard, and we use the life cycle approach in our criteria. And as TCO, we can be used directly in the public procurement. Our goal is to simplify the complex because, as you know, the environmental things are not easy to cover, and they are complex, and they are many parts in the life cycle.
Sorry to interrupt, Karin. For some reason, your slides are not changing. Could you try resharing?
Is it now changing?
No.
No. Oh, no.
No rush. We can try again.
I'm now in... I don't know, I use both. Nothing happens, or?
No, nothing happens at this end.
I don't know what's the fault.
Well, you can continue without the slides. We will send the slides to everyone after this event.
Good, then you only see the first one. Okay, let's go back. Yes. Okay, many of these things that I tell you about the Nordic Ecolabel is the same as for TCO, as both works as certification of products. In the Swan Ecolabel, we also work as certification for services. So for ICT, we are not that deep into these product groups. We have earlier had criteria for computers, but those are now finished. We see that TCO is doing such a great job, so we don't have much to add in that sector. But we have some criteria that are really relevant for the ICT. And the first one is a product group called recycled toner cartridges. And that is a really old criteria for eco-labeling. It has been on the market since 92, so really old. And it covers 13 Nordic Swan eco-labeling licensing and today 11,000 products. So basically, most of the cartridges that are newly produced are also recycled in the Swan system. This product group has been brought by Syke, the Finnish Environmental Institute's analysis up as one of the clearest examples of eco-labeled innovative production models supporting circular economy. And this means that these toner cartridges are collected and dismantled and cleaned and checked and repaired. And they are after that refilled with toner powder that meets strict chemical requirements. Also, the drum is changed frequently to ensure that the printing quality is really good. And we, as TCO, we do also regular checkup with the producers and also test the quality of the prints. The goal is of course environmental benefits. And by repairing and reusing toner cartridges, we save resources and produce less waste. And we have one company, for example, that has reported that they recycled 1.3k tons of plastics and 340 tons of metals per year. So it's really big numbers. And another final example of the Swan eco-label in ICT sector is cleaning of liquid damaged electronics. This criteria it's new. It's done in 2020. And for now, we have one Nordic Swan eco-label licenses with 450 products eco-labeled. In this services, the eco-label cover service damaged electronic devices such as laptops, tablets, mobile phones, and smartwatches. And this has then been damaged from liquids as coffee or soft drink. And this eco-label service must perform well, quickly and effectively with a success rate of a minimum 50%. Also, they need to have reasonable consumption of energy and water, and in the cleaning process using only eco-labeled cleaning agents. So this is what I have shortly to tell you. Sorry, my slideshow was not working, but hopefully you got something out of the presentation anyway.
Thank you, Karin, for your presentation. We surely did. Next, we will hear two very interesting presentations from the Netherlands. First, we'll get to know what it means for ICT waste compensation. Please welcome Joost de Kleuver from Closing the Loop. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Thanks to the audience for spending some time on this great topic. Great to indeed share some of the insights from the Netherlands today. Allow me to see if I can share some slides with you here. So if all goes well, you'll be seeing my slides now. My name is Joost de Kleuver. I founded a company called Closing the Loop. We work on the topic that we're discussing today, circularity for tech, and the approach that we're taking is that we turn circularity into a service. As our company works with the tech industry itself, but of course also, as we're explaining here today, for tech customers, so anyone that procures electronics, we are very much part of the value chain of tech. We work on lifecycle extension, but very much our focus today, and I'll explain that in the next slide, is on procurement. How do you make a device that you buy, that you probably also very much like to buy, and that's essential for your organization? How do we make that device a little bit more sustainable or circular? And we take a very pragmatic, but also safe approach to do so. So maybe some of the topics that you've heard already in the past and were mentioned also today is that when anyone would try to sell, let's say, circularity or more sustainable uses of tech, it's often that you hear these arguments being used. For example, that mining is something that we should not do anymore because metals should be extracted from waste. or that electronic waste, e-waste, is something that is very much on the rise, and a very broad topic. Procurement should be more compliant to, for example, the standards that are being developed by the European Union. So yes, these are relevant aspects, but you'll also agree that most of your colleagues will have these reactions to those arguments. When they buy a device, they're not really thinking a lot about mining of materials in conflict areas, for example. They just want to buy a new device. When you talk about e-waste, most of your colleagues will have no clue what you're talking about. Electronic waste is a big problem, as we would say in the tech industry. But again, for an individual working within your organization, this is not often on the agenda. And lastly, that's very much thinking something that we hear also for public procurers here in the Netherlands. Yes, it is great to be more compliant, maybe even also innovative on the topic of green. But as soon as that means that it has a negative effect on the usability and also on your choice opportunity for the tech that you want to buy, then most of your colleagues, again, will disconnect. So the approach that we've taken in the last few years is that we explain about the values, the benefits for you as a buyer, but of course also for your colleagues and for your organization that you're part of. And then you see actually these three topics being mentioned quite often. Devices such as phones are really important for my company or my organization. It's clearly the case that every employee uses devices every day, perhaps almost the whole day. And yes, this is also something that's mentioned. We want green procurement, but we want it to be done in a safe way. We're a bit of a risk-averse organization, especially in the public domain. So what we did is that we actually delivered on those statements by saying, okay, so if you appreciate the fact that devices are crucial for your organization, and maybe it also helps, and it's even relevant and beneficial for your organization, to make those devices a little bit more aligned with your values. So moving away a little bit from just the responsibility or the sustainable need, and a little bit more towards what does it bring your organization to engage on greener or circular procurement of tech. And secondly, you'll imagine that as all of your colleagues, again, stare at their devices the whole day, those products are also great for employee engagement, educating and engaging your workforce on the topic that maybe your management or the leadership within your public organization is talking about, circularity and sustainability, and now making that topic more relevant for an individual, because again, it is applied to the device that they have in their hands. So what we did is that we developed a service that delivers on what I just shared, a very simple, pragmatic, realistic approach toward circular procurement. It's called waste compensation. And it means that when our customers buy a new device, such as a phone, and they buy it through the supplier that they prefer, any organization that you're currently working with, for example, we will collect, that is what my company does, an equal amount of electronic waste. And we will recycle that amount of waste. And that waste reduction is then used to compensate your device. It makes the device that you've bought, that new device that you're buying, waste neutral. And of course, I'll very much echo what the previous speakers have said. Reuse and buying used devices is, of course, much better. But when you buy a new device, a service like this can be added. So just an example from real life. This is how we worked, for example, for the Dutch national government. They've stated, we want to become circular. They have a great ambition and a statement on how to do this in 2030 or 40, for example. But how to then actually act today? And so the question would be, as our service costs money, why does a government want to spend money on making their devices waste neutral? Well, I explained a little bit already, but just in a few bullets, you'll imagine that adding a service like this doesn't have a negative effect on your current procurement process. So that's definitely something that's important for procurement and IT. But it's very tangible. What we do is waste reduction. Our waste reduction is used, again, to make your device waste neutral. So a very realistic and measurable effect on global sustainability. You don't have to change your supply. You don't have to change the products that you buy. And you do get, and that's something also that the pictures here show, a story that you can use on your internal websites or even externally to talk about what does the government, what does the public organization actually do today on public procurement in a circular way. So I think one slide to sum that up. Waste compensation, as I mentioned, buying a device in the way that you're currently buying it, but now making that device waste neutral, is a service that is safe, solid, and applied already by many organizations. I'm very happy to say that we collaborate with TCO Development, for example, that they turned this concept into a new industry norm. Our approach is also assured by highly critical accountants, but we also use tools to show where we collect electronic waste. Again, as we collect that waste to compensate, for example, your device, we also, of course, need to prove that we're actually collecting that and that we're collecting it specifically for you. The service is used by, for example, the national government, but also, for example, provinces, tax office, and others. I'll stop at this. It is NGO supported, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sorry for taking too much time there.
Thank you, Joost.
Great, thank you.
And as today's last presentation, especially requested by our buyers from Finland, when we started planning this event, we had discussions with buyers on what they thought would be the future solutions and what they were interested in. And one that came up was modular computers and phones. And we are happy to say that these solutions already exist and are proud to present our today's last speaker, Samuel Brown from Fairphone. Go ahead, Samuel.
Hello, everyone. So I appreciate that, we're the last speaker, so I'm sure you're all quite tired and want to get on. So I'll try to keep it quick. It's hard to, present or pitch Fairphone in just 5 minutes, but I'll do my best for sure. Before I kind of go into the Fairphone story, I kind of want to, show you what is the current situation today. 1.4 billion phones are sold each year. The average lifespan of a phone is 2 to 3 years. Now, after use, only 20% are actually being recycled. I actually find 20% on the higher side of things. So if you look at it, 80% of all 1.4 billion phones are ending up into e-waste, landfill sites. That is obviously not sustainable. So what is Fairphone? What do we do? How do we try and give the industry the most sustainable phone possible? We focus on 4 areas. We focus on fair materials. The phone is made out of many different materials. Off my head, I think it's around 40. Where did this material come from? What's happening in the minds? Are the children in the minds? Is it corrupt? There are so many different kind of areas you need to think about. And what we do is we focus on 14 different materials and make sure that they all come from a fairly sourced mine. We obviously work with third-party suppliers to make sure that happens, to make sure that there are no kids in the mines, that they have safety equipment, that they know how to actually mine sustainably. You then go into the next part of the supply chain, workers' welfare. Factories are not always the best kind of working conditions. So what we do, we make sure that our workers have a voice. We make sure that we try to give them unions. Currently, the minimum wage or the average wage of these workers is not a living wage. So what we do is we give them a quarterly bonus to make sure that their wage is actually a living wage rather than a minimum wage, a wage that they can live on, they can pay rent and afford food. If you then look at the actual design of a phone, it's a phone built to last. It's a modular phone. We try to make sure that a phone lasts 5 years. So by doing this, we need to make sure that it's easily to repair. Not just in hardware, but also make sure that we support software for 5 years as well. If you then look at the end of the life cycle of a phone, we make sure that obviously there is a recycling program in place. So I'd like to introduce the Fairphone 4, which is flagship that came out in October 2021. What you see here on the left are the tech specs and the fair specs. Now, I think the tech specs are quite self-explanatory, just please have a read. One thing I would like to mention is that we do now have an IP rating of 54. Now, you can imagine the challenges that faces when making a modular phone, making a phone that is actually designed to open, how difficult it is then to make sure that it's dust-proof and waterproof. What I would like to focus on right now are the fair specs. It's one of the only phones right now on the market that actually has a 5-year warranty. Again, this is not just the hardware. We also make sure that software is up to 5 years. Electronic waste neutral. Now, like previously, we're working with closing the loop. Because of this, we can say we are e-waste neutral. Every phone that we sell, we make sure one is being recycled. We have world-leading repairability scores with iFixit. The French government also has a repairability score, and we're always definitely at the top of all different manufacturers. We make sure that we improve working conditions, like I said before, with a living wage program. We want to actually extend that also into sub-suppliers and so forth. And my last point here is, 70% fair materials over the lifetime of a phone. Now, a phone that you buy today will not be as sustainable as the phone you buy, let's say, in 2 years' time, because we're always working on the supply chain to make sure that those minerals are always coming from more and more fairly sourced mines and suppliers. Now, this is kind of how modularity works. The phone kind of splits up into 8 different modules. 8 of these modules are all kind of put together by just screws. There are no glues, no nothing, which means that anyone can take it apart yourself. All you need is a screwdriver, which I'm sure everyone has. The display is a very common feature of a phone that breaks very easily. Now, this is something that you can take apart yourself just by replacing or taking out 8 screws and then clicking, let's say, the screen back into the module, and there you have a phone with a working screen again. It's great in businesses because it means there is no downtime. You don't need to wipe a phone, if you just want the screen repaired. So not only does it save money, but it saves a lot of time. So this is kind of an overview slide. As you see at the bottom, we were the first manufacturer to actually implement Fair Trade Gold into our supply chain. We are an EcoVadis Platinum member, certified B Corp. We are actually the only manufacturer, I think, to have TCO certification, which we're very proud of. And you see kind of the other ratings there. We are Eco Rating, top score on iFixit, Blauer Engel. These are all third-party suppliers that make sure that we actually do what we say we are doing. And I think that's very important. If you look at the sustainability goals, we meet 9 of the UN Sustainability Development Goals. There are, I think, out of 17. Like I mentioned again, e-waste neutral, modularity. Repair the phone yourself. There's no reason why you can't repair it, and by doing that, you really increase the lifespan from not just 5 years, but even into 6-7 years. Why not? After the end of the life cycle of a phone, of course, we have a take-back program. We would like to recycle the phone. And I think another really important issue is software. Software updates. We have 2 years monthly security updates. After those 2 years, it goes into quarterly updates, and obviously we will still support it for at least 5 years. And with that, you get the minimum of 2 OS updates. So currently, the Fairphone 4 runs on Android 11. By the end of its life, we'll make sure that it still will be using Android 13. An example of this, our Fairphone 2, which came out in 2016, now runs on Android 10, which I think is a world record. I'm going to leave it there because I think I'm 1 minute over my time. But please, any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Samuel. It was a great presentation. We have now run to the end of our general program, and we'll move to one-on-one meetings. In case you're too shy or busy to book a one-on-one meeting, we will be sending all the hosts' contact information for all participants, so you can be in contact with the companies later on. For the hosts of one-on-one meetings, please stay online for just a few minutes to see if there will be more bookings. You can still book your time from the chat or the stream window. I thank everyone in the audience and all our great presenters today. We have heard a great deal of inspiring things today. I hope that you have all found some new tools to enable the shift towards long-lasting, more sustainable and ethical ICT. Thank you, everyone.